page 9, page 10. Page number 11, page 12. Yes, Honorable Member for Kwadaso.
Honorable Speaker, I need your guidance on item 7, page 12. I remember yesterday, the Right Honorable Speaker directed that instead of the Finance Minister briefing the House, he accounted to the House. So, item 7, line 3, I heard him say that instead of briefed, it should be accounted to. I stand to be corrected though, but I heard him say that. Thank you.
Honorable Member, can you come again? I didn't get you.
Saying that on page 12, item 7, yesterday when the Honorable Speaker was speaking, he indicated that instead of the Finance Minister briefing the House, he was supposed to account to the House. So we should replace brief to accounted to the House. I heard him say that.
So, Honorable Member, are you raising as a concern on what?
Yeah, because he said that the Prime Minister was invited to the House to account to the House, not to brief the House. So we should replace brief the House to account to the House. He said that yesterday. I heard him clear.
Well, I really don't know. So how do you capture that? How do you think it should have been captured?
The Honorable Minister responsible for Finance, Mr. Kanofuriata, pursuant to Standing Order 70 and a request by the House, made a statement in which he accounted to the House. Because he said...
It's okay. Very well. So, table, just take note of his concern. So let's move to page 13. Page 14. Page number 15. Page 16. Page number 17. Page number 18. Page 19. Page,
hello, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. I'm not member for Pada, so let's hear you.
Honorable Speaker, page 19, item 2, attendance, Roman numeral VIII, Mr. Mutala Ibrahim Mohammed. I have issue with the arrangement of his name. If you look at page 19, it is Mr. Mutala Ibrahim Mohammed. If you go to page 14, Item D, Mr. Murtala Mohammed. And if you come to page 4, it is number 112, it is Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. So Ibrahim appears to me to be the surname. So we have to correct the arrangement of my good friend's name.
You don't even know your name. Well. Honorable member for Temali Central. You see, honorable member for Quadras is so concerned about you. How do you want your name to be arranged?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't know that there are honorable members here who are so obsessed with me. Thank you for loving me, unfortunately. Mr. Speaker, it's true, the surname is Ibrahim. So it's supposed to be Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. So he's right. I'll give you lunch this afternoon. I promise.
Honorable member for Quadras who wants to be more Pope, more Catholic than the Pope, eh? Yes, thank you very much. So table, please take note. We move to page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page number 18. Page 19. Page 20. Page 21. Page 22. Page, okay, honorable member for Nsawam Adwajiri.
Speaker, if you may indulge me, I've seen a number of committees that met and rarely captured in the votes and proceedings. The House Committee met yesterday, was chaired no less a person than the Majority Leader. And so that was the first time the House Committee was meeting. I realize it's conspicuously missing in the votes and proceedings. In the table office.
This session. Very well, table office. Please kindly take note of that. Yes, Leader of the House.
Mr. Speaker, let me effect some correction in the intervention made by the Majority Chief Whip. Yes, indeed, for this session, it's the first time that the House Committee did meet, and it was yesterday. But I cannot believe that this is the first time the House Committee is meeting, as if since creation, this is the first time it's meeting. But for this session, indeed, for this session, it's the first time that it met yesterday.
So, table, kindly take note of that. So, move to page 22. Honorable member, are you up on your feet? Page 23. And finally, page 24. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 16th sitting held yesterday, Wednesday, the 23rd June 2022, are hereby adopted as true records of proceedings. Honorable members, we don't have any official report with us. So we will move to item number 5. Leader, can you move to item number 5?
Mr. Speaker, yes, we could, but may I apply to you to indulge us to have a statement read before we go to question time. I've had some discussions with the Minister responsible for communications, and he agrees that we do it out of turn. But the minority leader and I have to exit to undertake some business on behalf of the House.
Well, request heeded, so you can, the statement can be made.
The Speaker, this statement is on the role of African parliaments and indeed parliamentarians in accelerating intra-African trade. The Speaker, in Freetown, Sierra Leone, exactly 2 weeks ago, at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa Region Annual Conference, I had occasion to move a motion on behalf of the Ghanaian delegation on the topic, the role of African parliaments in accelerating intra-African trade. The contents of the submission was profoundly appreciated, and given the fact that the two of us MPs who attended the conference, the minority leader and I, are back, we both agreed that the relevant extracts of the presentation should be made in Parliament, which is what to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the significance of this topic on the heels of the rampaging effects of COVID-19 pandemic, in particular, on the economies of African countries, cannot be lost on anyone. As a direct consequence of the COVID-19, African economies experienced negative to extremely low economic growth, unsustainable fiscal deficits, rising debt levels, huge populations being pushed below the poverty bracket, and balance of payments problems. The Speaker, as African economies were about to emerge from the shocks of COVID-19, entered the war in Ukraine, which is affecting food, fuel, and steel prices, as well as access to international finance. As highlighted by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, a high dependency on imports in areas such as food, drugs, machinery, equipment, overly exposed African countries to the economic consequences of the pandemic, as well as the Russian-Ukrainian war. Stimulating local and intra-African trade can go a long way to reducing of the global crisis being felt by African countries. Besides, Mr. Speaker, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and the African Union's Agenda 2063 intra-African trade would undoubtedly play a key role in ameliorating the poor living conditions of the disadvantaged and repositioning them towards medium to long-term inclusive and sustainable growth. The African Continental Free Trade Area, therefore, presents an opportunity for the African continent to build infrastructural and trade frameworks that will ramp up in-country and Pan-African economic potentials and reduce, in very significant proportions, the level of the continent's reliance on imports and prevent the situation where, whenever the Western world, and increasingly these days, when as well China sneezes, Africa catches cold. So, Mr. Speaker, what is the African Continental Free Trade Area? It is a flagship project of the African Union established in 2018 to ultimately create a single market for goods and services on the continent, facilitated by the free movement of persons to promote industrial development, that is, adding value to primary produces on the African continent. Mr. Speaker, the agreement is supposed to connect about 1.3 billion people across the continent with a combined GDP estimated at over 3.5 trillion United States dollars. Intra-US trade is 50% of all trading activities. In Asia, intra-Asia trade is about 60%, and in Europe, intra-European trade is about 70% of the entire trading. However, unfortunately, intra-African trade currently accounts for only 12% of trade, significantly lower than what obtains in all the other regions. Therefore, it continuously increases dependence on foreign markets. The African Continental Free Trade Area is the most promising rescue mission for the continent to break down the shackles of neo-colonialism once and for all. The agreement provides ample opportunities for country to country and company to company, and indeed businessman to businessman collaboration to thereby strengthen the resilience of the economies of the various African countries. Mr. Speaker, strengthening the fundamentals of the African economies would happen because of the advantages the African Continental Free Trade Area offers, which include: 1, to create a liberalized market for goods and services, contribute to the movement of capital, introduce new technology to increase productivity and production, increase competitiveness of member economies, and promote industrialization through diversification of local economies, and develop value addition systems for the various primary products of the various countries. To make it easier, Mr. Speaker, for business in Africa to trade among themselves and benefit from the expanded African market, expanded market basis, especially with the elimination of tariffs and intra-African trade. And finally, it will also help to establish, in the very near future, a common African continental market. Mr. Speaker, the economic impact of the African Continental Free Trade Area would be humongous. According from the World Bank, the African Continental Free Trade Area economic and distributional effect, implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area would yield the following results: lift about 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty and boost the income of 70 million others who live on less than $5.50 a day. It will boost Africa's income by 450 billion by 2035 and add 76 billion United States dollars worth of income to the rest of the world. Mr. Speaker, it will also increase Africa's exports by 560 billion, mostly in manufacturing, and boost wages of both skilled and unskilled workers. Mr. Speaker, small and medium-scale enterprises account for about 80% of African businesses, and there are truckloads of benefits to be derived from the African Continental Free Trade Area in such enterprises. The benefits include: 1, fostering specialization and boosting industrialization, increasing employment and investment opportunities, as well as technological development, and enabling African-owned enterprises to enter into new markets, expand customer base, create new products and services, thereby making investment in innovation viable. Also seeks to reduce the manufacturing gap, creating more avenues for small SMEs to create jobs, especially for young people, to address the problem of youth unemployment, which could explode if left unattended to in the medium term. The Speaker will also increase investments that will drive capital to domestic businesses and ensure that raw materials are imported from other African countries to enable the SMEs to set up assembly plants in other African countries, thereby creating cheaper means of production. Mr. Speaker, so what is the role of African parliamentarians and indeed Ghanaian parliamentarians, if I may add, in facilitating the African Continental Free Trade Area, given its immense benefits. Mr. Speaker, first of all, we must admit that the level of awareness and understanding of the agreement within African parliaments and our own parliament is rather low. That is not surprising because the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, like other agreements, were concluded in the chambers of the executive arm of government before they were brought and indeed rushed through Parliament for ratification. It is important for parliamentarians or representatives of the people to have a thorough understanding of the agreement. Second, there is a very low level of awareness regarding the existence of the agreement within the business community and indeed within the populace. The Speaker, in Nigeria, when a survey was conducted on the awareness of the African Continental Free Trade Area, about two-thirds, 67% of the small, medium-scale enterprises were not aware of the existence of the agreement. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I believe if a similar survey is conducted in Ghana, I'm not sure that more than 20% of our SMEs would be aware of the existence of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Members of Parliament shall have to partner with the media and in collaboration with other stakeholders, including churches, mosques, traditional leaders, and other opinion leaders, and the local association of manufacturers and employees to organize town hall meetings to explain the benefits and access to relevant capital to open avenues to local entrepreneurs. The Speaker, Parliament and parliamentarians have to confront local challenges and impediments by enacting relevant legislations to free the environment of bottlenecks. For instance, Mr. Speaker, from Accra, Ghana's capital city, to Aflao, the Ghanaian eastern border town, there are 2 police customs checkpoints. From Lomé, the capital of Togo, to Hilakonji, the border town between Togo and the Republic of Benin, there are 15 checkpoints where traders have to disembark for their vehicles and for the inspection of passports and other documents, and of course, payments of unauthorized fees and levies. From the western border to the eastern border of Togo is about 160 kilometers. Benin is 220 kilometers across and has 18 checkpoints. From Semepoji, the western coast border town, to Lagos is about 120 kilometers. And that stretch has 20 police, customs, and immigration checkpoints. How is trade to be facilitated by this? Indeed, Mr. Speaker, between Accra and Elubo, there are 3 checkpoints. From Elubo, crossing the border to Abidjan, there are 17 checkpoints, including immigration and customs checkpoints, before one gets to Abidjan. How is trade to be facilitated by such arrangements? Implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement could also throw up some challenges that the parliaments of Africa have to confront. For instance, the agreement will mean harmonizing Africa's heterogeneous economies, and it will be difficult to ensure broad-based gains for all member states, given the considerable variations and size of the economies, the level of economic development, and diversification. Some minimum protectionist instruments shall have to be, and protectionist instruments, the Speaker, I put in quotes, some minimum of such shall have to be developed by the various parliaments, since without such anchors, some local economies may be swallowed up completely and collapse. The Speaker, fifthly, the African Continental Free Trade Area has the greatest level of income disparity of any continental free trade agreement. Many countries, especially the 32 least developed countries in Africa, face challenges to create jobs and develop their industrial sectors and diverse products. If the necessary relevant legislations are not put in place by the Parliament to ultimately ensure equity and parity, the least developed countries could remain drawers of water and hewers of wood to lubricate the economies of the relatively advanced. Mr. Speaker, sixthly, Africa's weak transportation network has to be addressed. Interconnectivity in respect of rail, road, air transport have to be addressed simultaneously, and parliaments have to lead the way. In some countries, low technological uptake and conflict threaten the implementation of the agreement. In West Africa, in particular, armed insurgency, often at the instance of some jihadists, is on the ascendancy. Oftentimes, the conflict ensues from or is predicated on the politics of exclusion, which renders segments of the population marginalized, and they become vulnerable and get preyed on by the insurgents. Parliaments have a role to play in pursuing decentralized administration to ensure that the countries of Africa and their composite states and regions, provinces and all, including areas within the regions and districts, are developed equitably. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the benefits of the intra-African trade and some of the functions that African parliaments and parliamentarians have to perform to enable the continent and African people harvest the gains of intra-African trade. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the information that I've generated here really is generated by the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. And I believe if we assess the Secretariat, we will be well placed to also inform our constituents of the advantages of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Speaker, is one recipe to cure a lot of mischief and imbalance in the system. And I hope and pray that we'll do what is needful to project the benefits of the agreement in order for our small, medium-scale enterprises to benefit from the opportunities that the location of the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area in Accra provides. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity granted. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Yes, let me invite the Minister for Communication. It's a long time I heard the voice. So, Minister, let's hear you.
That's very kind of you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must thank the Majority Leader for making this statement and for raising these very pertinent issues. Indeed, Parliament can't afford to be a bystander in the implementation of this pivotal agreement, which is guaranteed to lift African economies out of poverty and resolve multiple problems for us. And so I can only add my voice to that of the leader to urge all of us to take a keen interest in not only acquainting ourselves with the details of this agreement, but in considering what we can also do individually to help our local, small and medium enterprises take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to also grow our local economies. Mr. Speaker, I believe that digital technology will be the basis for the success of this continental free trade area, because it will facilitate the growth of digital trade within the continent and e-commerce to a large extent. And I'm glad to note that one of the key components of it has already been agreed amongst our central banks and various players in the sector, including the various ICT ministers as well. That's the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which will make it possible for us to use our local currencies to trade across the continent and open up our economies without having to rely on payment systems currently, the visas and MasterCards, which have been developed and are facilitating the growth of other economies. Mr. Speaker, we need the robust digital ICT infrastructure to facilitate e-commerce across the continent to assist the Pan-African Continental Free Trade Agreement to succeed. And that is what we in Ghana are currently working on. Another issue that we need to consider, which I believe our standards organizations are already working on, is the interoperability of standards and the certainty of the goods that are produced. That also needs to be done. Mr. Speaker, our customs, various customs agencies also need to work together to reduce the bureaucracy that entails with the clearing of goods at our various ports. We also we need to look at product certification. If a product is certified in one country, the producers don't have to go through the bureaucracy and the hassle of certifying that product in another country. And I believe our Food and Drugs Authority is one of the best on the continent. So Ghanaian products certified by our Food and Drugs Authority ought to be granted easy access to other markets in the region. And that's where our parliaments can also play a role in harmonizing the disparate pieces of legislation across the continent and enabling us to trade seamlessly amongst ourselves. Logistics and last mile delivery of the products also needs to be looked at. And we do have challenges with our road and rail network and our air transport network across the continent. And so Parliament should also look to see what we can do to facilitate the growth and harmonization of the logistics chain across the continent. Whichever system we put in place to facilitate this free trade area also needs to be secure from the activities of fraudsters and criminals, who I'm sure are waiting to take advantage of it. And these are all areas that our Parliament can look at to see what we can do. So I must thank the Majority Leader again for raising these issues and calling on all of us to position ourselves to let Parliament take a key role in the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And nobody from your side. Okay. Honorable, let me go to Kwada, so he's been up for something. Okay.
Honorable Speaker, I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to add my voice to the statement ably made by our distinguished leader of the House. Mr. Speaker, happenings in the global environment now suggest that African countries must do something differently in order for us to aggressively deal with threats that always confront us and put us at a very tight and difficult corner. That is why this statement is very timely, and the idea of the AFTA is something that all of us must do our best to embrace and pursue aggressively. Mr. Speaker, we know the AFTA seeks to create a single market that will make it possible for us to deepen trade integration within our continent, and it will link about 1.3 billion people in Africa. Mr. Speaker, recently I read a report that showed that when AFTA starts operating, it will create intercontinental exports of about 81%. And this will help inure to the benefit of Africans. Mr. Speaker, apart from that, exports to non-African countries will rise by 19%. And look at the revenue that will accrue to the respective countries within our sub-region. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the ADB predicts that it will lift about 30 million people from extreme poverty within Africa. That is why, in my opinion, Parliament, civil society organizations, religious institutions, as our leader espoused, must all come together to make this a reality. Access to credit, other bottlenecks and challenges that will impair the progress of AFTA must be eliminated. Mr. Speaker, unemployment is a challenge within our sub-region. Recently, we all were told that about 30.4% of the youth in this country are without jobs. Mr. Speaker, do we know how this after will help us in terms of lessening the impact of unemployment on us? It is very important that all of us come to the table to get this done. Increase in trade volumes, increase in our revenue envelope in terms of foreign currency will help us to be able to face some of our infrastructural challenges that are having a toll on us. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to pat the back of our able leader for this timely statement. Our president has been talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. And I think that this is a call for all Africans to think beyond aid. Ghana Beyond Aid, African Beyond Aid creates a fertile platform for AFTA to thrive. And if AFTA succeeds, the continent succeeds. If AFTA succeeds, then it means that we'll be able to deal with the threat and menace of poverty and other ills that always confront us, that puts us at a very bad and wrong corner. On that score, I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honorable, you okay? Okay. Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank the Vice Chairman of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, our own Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, who also represents us at the Coordinating Council. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumani Bagbin, was in Freetown, Sierra Leone, to lead and support Ghana's delegation to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association meeting. Mr. Speaker, the Vice Chairman and our leader made Ghana proud when he moved the motion on the role of African parliaments in accelerating intra-African trade, which was chaired by Botswana. And Mr. Speaker, I joined the resolution committee, and one of the strong resolutions which was adopted at the Freetown meeting of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association was for African leaders to work to reduce or minimize the barriers to trade and to take full advantage of AFTET, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that the leader has so spoken to. Mr. Speaker, I was just reading a World Bank report on it, and we are told that it offers an opportunity to boost growth, reduce poverty, and broaden economic inclusion. Indeed, the World Bank have conducted some study which indicates that if African countries take advantage of it, West Africa will see the biggest decline in the number of people living in extreme poverty, a decline of 12 million, more than a third of the total for all of Africa. Central Africa will see a decline of 9.3 million. East Africa will see a decline of 4.8 million. Southern Africa will see a decline of 3.9 million. Countries with the highest initial poverty rate will see the biggest decline in poverty rate. And Guinea-Bissau, the rate will decline from 37.9% to 27.7%. And Mali, the rate will decline from 14.4% to 6.8%. And Togo, Mr. Speaker, from 24.1% to 16.9%. Of the 450 billion in income which is likely to be gained, 292 billion is estimated will come from stronger trade facilitation. So I couldn't agree more with leader when he said that African countries should take full advantage of ACTEC in order that we build the largest continental trade union in Africa. Mr. Speaker, the leader also raised a question, and that is where I would, whilst commending him, I will conclude with. what is the role of African Parliament? Mr. Speaker, truth is that even the stronger African economies of South Africa and Nigeria were initially reluctant to commit to this AFTED agreement. It took some time before the South African government and Nigeria government committed into signing it. Beyond the signature, how many of the parliaments have ratified the agreement? Maybe, Mr. Speaker, it may differ from country to country. For our purposes, under Article 75 of the Constitution, any side agreement will require parliamentary ratification, and we have so ratified that particular agreement. But, Mr. Speaker, I understand that 40 countries have so ratified, but this is an agreement which affects 55 countries. So it means, Mr. Speaker, some African countries are still lagging behind, and it's important that we get them on board. Mr. Speaker, so once again I want to commend the majority leader and vice chairman of CPA and hope that African Parliament will do more. One of the major resolutions there was respecting the Maputo Protocol on agriculture, which requires that 10% of GDP be allocated over the period to support agricultural investment to take advantage of AFTEC. I believe that is something that we should also do in Ghana. Our national budget normally will not reflect even up to that amount. Ghana is not taking full advantage of it. Then, Mr. Speaker, finally, significant policy reforms. Parliaments must lead that process supporting the executive for major policy reports that allows for the ease of doing business and reducing the cost of trade. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I want to commend the leader and commend the Ghanaian delegation to the Commonwealth Parliament Association. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we shall come back to statement, but I want us to proceed with item 5, which is question time. Yes.
Speaker, I'll seek your kind leave for us to vary the order of business and rather take item 11 on page 6, after which we'll take the questions. Item 11 on page 6 of today's order paper.
Yes, honorable members, let me invite you to page 6.
Speaker, if you may indulge me, I think it's rather page 10, item 15 on page 10. Sorry.
Very well. Honorable members, please, let's turn our attention to page 10, item 15. Page 10, item 15. Motion by the chairman of Works and Water Resources Committee.
Well, Works and Housing.
Works and Housing.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that motion numbered 15, page 10 on the order paper be adopted today. And so doing, I present the committee's report, and I urge the Health Department to capture the entire report as having been read. Mr. Speaker, this is a report of a commercial agreement involving an amount of 65 million euros to finance the construction of water supply for the people of Takwa and its environs. Mr. Speaker, the project is so viable, and this committee recommends to this House. Mr. Speaker, because the water system existing in Takwa was done some 50 years ago, and obviously, population growth, wear and tear, has called for the need to replace this water system with a modern one. So, Speaker, your committee examined the agreement in detail, and we are convinced that this project is worth pursuing. So, Speaker, the water in Takwa, the Bonsa water, over the years has suffered so much from environmental degradation, activities of Galamsey, and other manners. And we believe that the water needs to be protected. Just because you are aware, in our elementary days, we know that water has key qualities, key properties. Water is supposed to be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. But what do we see today, Mr. Speaker? Water has color, either gold or brown. Water has some distinctive taste today. So, Speaker, this is not what we used to know about water. Water should be colorless, tasteless, and odorless without any smell. But today you can smell water. This is very unfortunate. I like it.
Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is very much aware of the rules. He is to present the committee's report. He's not to speak to the report. So he should just present the report. If he wants to speak to it later, after members have contributed, he can come back. But for now, the rules is he's to present the committee's report. So he should read the report as written.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, why are you sure that properties of water is not part of the report?
Mr. Speaker, the report has been distributed, and he's supposed to present the report. And as you may be aware, he himself rightly said he wants the Hansard Department to capture the report as having fully been read, whilst he reads sections. Now he's not reading the section, and he's speaking to the report and making statements that are not on the sheet. So if he wants to do that, Mr. Speaker, our rules allows him. But that's after he has presented the report to us and then seconded. Then when we speak, then he wants to come back, he can come to speak to it. So he should kindly just present the report to us first. Then later, if he wants to speak to the report, he can come back to do that. Just complying with the rules, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member is remembering his old days chemistry.
Mr. Speaker, this is my fifth time in this house. Very experienced legislator. He knows it. I know what I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, I came here for 29 years. I know the rules. You should go to the report, paragraph 9.2. Mr. Speaker, I say clearly that measures have been put in place to protect Bonsa River from encroaches. That's what I'm speaking to. That's what I'm speaking to. I don't like reading the report. Mr. Speaker, another key observation we observed is the fact that, Mr. Speaker, whatever I'm reading finds expression in the report. So please, what are you talking about? Whatever I'm reading finds expression in the report. Most of the time required, you think, Mr. Speaker, let me know that I'm strictly complying with the rules. Yes, you should. I gave you the paragraph. Mr. Speaker, another issue we touch upon, and as a committee, when we meet, we are interested in three critical issues: economy, efficiency, and of course, effectiveness. Put together value for money. The committee also observed that the audit was not part of the report. Meanwhile, the ministry has agreed that that report will be available to the committee in due course. So the committee agrees with the ministry's position. Another issue about stakeholder engagement. Yes, many NGOs, relevant stakeholders were involved in this project. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by commenting to the House that this project is viable. It's about providing water, quality water to people from Takwa and its environs. And therefore, I recommend to the House to adopt this report and also pass by resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Who is the ranking member? Yes. Honourable member for Kofol. Is it Kofol? If you just enough.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved ably by the chairman for the committee. As the chairman alluded to, water is a very critical thing, particularly in the area, in the Takwa area. One of the things that the committee find clarity about was the issue of Galamsey in the area and the effects it has had on the water quality in the area, particularly on the Bonsa river. So we are sure that the new design is being done in such a way that it will be done to take care of the threat that is posed by the issue of Galamsey, and that it will be structured in such a way that sedimentation would be organized. At the end of the day, we will be able to get good water for the good people of Takwa and Swahili. One of the interesting things is that it is not only being done for the Takwa municipality, that will be extended to a number of other towns and villages in the area. And it comes with a dedicated power supply, which would ensure that water delivery can be assured over time. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that this is a good project, and I urge the House to support the committee's report for the implementation of the Takwa Israel water project. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, the motion has been moved and it has been seconded. It is before the House for consideration. Honourable member, are you up on your feet? Okay, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important issue. I'm part of the Works Committee, and we consider this particular committee report. It's not
Why?
Mr. Speaker, we met and discussed this particular issue extensively.
It's not like to be having like a headmaster in this house. It's unfair. You should respect colleague members.
Mr. Speaker,
are you headmaster of this house? Are you the headmaster? No, we are not like a headmaster of this house. Please, it's unfair. No, please respect colleague members. It's unfair to us. No, please, this thing should stop.
Mr. Speaker,
because we sit here, you think you are more important than other members. No, it's unfair. Please, you should respect colleague members.
No, Mr. Speaker, he cannot say this in the hazard and get away.
Hold on.
If he cares to know, he claims to be a first timer, but he's behaving like a first timer. Because as a whip, if you care to know, the whip is in charge of discipline, not only on the chamber, but of all members. No member is supposed to absent himself from the house without a written permission from the Speaker, and he tells us with the whip. So how can you be a fifth timer and you're talking as if you're a first timer?
Hello?
Because the colleague is trying to speak.
Honourable members.
And I was drawing his attention, look at what you are saying. I'm the two people on my side. I'm the two people on my side. And you're so indisciplined and you're behaving like a first timer. I think you don't know the rules of this house.
Honourable leader.
You are a chairman, you got up and you are completely misleading the house and leaving the report, and your attention has been drawn to it. Look at the way you are behaving. You are doing as if you are a first timer.
Mr. Speaker, I take offense to what Mr. Khan has said. You need to withdraw and apologize to me accordingly. There is no headmaster in this house, Mr. Khan, let me tell you. You cannot be headmaster of this house.
yes, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, hold on.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minority Whip. It appears you went too far. Honourable Leader, Minority Whip. Oh, honourable members, please, hold on. Honourable Leader, it appears we went too far, please.
Mr. Speaker,
Can you withdraw that statement for me?
Mr. Speaker, you heard.
Honorable Leader, can you withdraw that statement for me, please?
Mr. Speaker, you heard my colleague and the things that he said. Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to say, my reaction was in direct response to what he said. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, and my colleague says he's a fifth timer, he just said it earlier, and he knows the responsibilities of whips anywhere in this world in Parliament. One of their responsibilities first is to ensure discipline on their side. It is to ensure order on their side. It is to ensure that their members conform to the rules of the House. And Mr. Speaker, my colleague got up to speak once he didn't have the report. So I was drawing his attention that, how are you going to contribute without the report? So I volunteered my own report and I walked there to give it to him. Then he chose to get up and start calling names that I'm behaving like a headmaster. And I'm trying to draw his attention that that comment that he's making makes him behave as if he is a first timer, because he, a fifth timer, should know the duties and functions of a whip. Mr. Speaker, that is in reaction to what he said. Because if he's a fifth timer, he should know clearly the function of a whip. But Mr. Speaker, our responsibility as leaders is to help you to manage the House. And Mr. Speaker, I will say, Mr. Speaker,
please be on your seat, please.
Mr. Speaker,
please be on your seat, please.
Mr. Speaker, our responsibility is to help you to manage this House. Honorable Esiama is my colleague, and he knows that I have great respect for him. I have never, not even once, whether in the chamber or outside the chamber, tried to ever disrespect him. And he knows that. Even his constituency, I won't go into his constituency without calling him. And he knows that. Right? His comment, I wasn't happy. But Mr. Speaker, obviously, two wrongs will not make a right. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I, being a whip, will take the first step to withdraw and apologize to him for referring to him as a first timer. But I hope he will be courteous enough to me to know that I have a responsibility to keep my side in order. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, Honorable Chairman, please, I will also implore you to also withdraw that statement that he's behaving like a class teacher.
Mr. Speaker, as he said, this House is governed by rules. He understands it. But when a member is on his seat, how does he know that he doesn't have a report? Speaker, this is unfair. When a member gets up to speak, he's so undermining.
Honorable
report.
Honorable Chairman,
because of the respect I also have for him, I think we came the same. Because of the respect I also have for him, I withdraw the word headmaster. Let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable member, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's no doubt of the fact that water is truly life, especially when the discussion about providing water for people of Takwa would have to generate some interest like this. And it confirmed the fact that water is truly life. People would have to fight to make sure life is actually provided. I thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this very beautiful and very important matter. We sat and we considered this particular report very extensively, and we are of the view that it is good to provide water for people of Takwa and its environment. In actual fact, I know Takwa very well. Mr. Speaker, the population in Takwa is really increasing day in, day out. It's a mining area where mining activities are actually taking place. And so this issue of Galamsey is also another very serious matter that is destroying the water bodies and so forth and so on. And so it is important that when we want to provide water for people of Takwa and to increase access to potable water, will be very careful and take into consideration the activities that are undertaken there. For example, like I mentioned, the Galamsey issue, destroying the water bodies and so forth and so on. So when we met, I was considering the fact that, Mr. Speaker, when are we going to consider building water reservoir underground so that these will serve as a water storage for people within the environment of that nature? And it is not only Takwa. Ghana is actually, water is actually needed in Ghana, so many places, even in Accra. We are rationing water. The people of Takrady, Kumasi, and so forth and so on, they all need water. And therefore, if we're considering to provide water for people of Takwa and its environment, it is absolutely important that we must all agree and support. And so, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much that this bill is considered, this report is considered. We would want to follow it and make sure that it is properly done. The only concern is that let us provide water for people of Takwa, but must be very accountable. Make sure we follow the report as is properly laid and make sure that the work is truly done, value for money is actually ensured, and that the contractors are really looked at in order to get the job done properly for the people of Takwa to get water to drink. I thank you very much, and I pray and hope that this work will be done properly. God bless you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Takwa is in Western Region. Let me invite the Western Region Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support the report in approving 65 million euros for the Takwa water supply project. Mr. Speaker, I'm particularly happy because this project is a game changer for the people of Takwa in the Western region. In fact, this will bring to two major water projects in the Western region. The Sekedi Takrady water supply project and now the Takwa water supply project. Mr. Speaker, if you take the population of Takwa, it is estimated to be around 192,000. And for this project, some of the towns that are going to benefit from the project, I believe that we need to let the people know. One of them is the Bonsa area where the project is going to be situated, the Panchim area around Hilda. We also have Chale Krum, Ifuanta, Kwabedu, Mantrim, Aguna Wasa. You know, Aguna Wasa is part of the area that we are currently doing the roads. Isuta, Tamso, Fantis Mine, where we have our community mining system. Sinyakum, Achempim, Simpa, Dompim, Pepesa, and Dompim is the town of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Takwa Shaim, Honorable George Mekuduka. So these towns are going to benefit. You can also look at Bofidu, Atuabo, Aboso, University of Mines and Technology, and other settlements. So clearly, this project is a game changer for the people of Takwa. And I know that the people of Takwa are going to be very, very happy that this project is coming off in the area. Mr. Speaker, we've talked about the issue of Galamsey being a major problem that has affected this project. But Mr. Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, we have been working on them and we've been fighting them very hard to make sure that when this project comes on board, the issues we've had with the old system is kept to the barest minimum. Mr. Speaker, this water supply project, apart from supplying these towns, is also going to increase the volume of water to the people. Currently, we are able to produce just 2,800 meter cube per day. The demand is 15,000. But this project in particular is going to increase even the demand to 27,000, the supply to 27,000 meter cube per day. So clearly, it shows that apart from meeting the current needs, it's also going to have access for other projects. So clearly, this will be able to attract commercial activities into Takwa. If somebody wants to build a brewery in Takwa, he can easily do this. If somebody wants to build a cassava processing plant, he can easily do this. If people want to invest, even in mining, they know that they will get water for their cooling systems in the Takwa area. So, Mr. Speaker, I do believe that this project is a major game changer for the area, and I will employ all members here present to support it, so that the people of Takwa will be less burdened when it comes to the issue of water for their livelihood. On that note, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity, and the people of Takwa are grateful for this project. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to the ongoing discussion regarding the report duly presented by your committee. Mr. Speaker, I make references to item 8.2 on page 8, where the committee speaks about value for money audit. Mr. Speaker, the committee indicates that the ministry was unable to provide a report on a value for money audit. Mr. Speaker, I find that to be a bit worrisome. Clearly, there are reasons why the law requires that before contracts are given out, value for money audits ought to be performed. Time and again, we have had cause to raise this matter. And it seems as though we have become accessories, we have become facilitators, and as far as adhering to what is required by law is concerned. When the committee says that it is urging the ministry to ensure that value for money audit was completed before signing the contract as the Public Financial Management, Public Investment Management Regulations 2020 LI 2411 requires, I have a problem with that. Why must we always excuse the ministries as far as this provision is concerned? We all know the importance of value for money audits. So I think it is about time that we start insisting that before reports are presented, the committees should have received the value for money audits, and to ensure that we are all comfortable that the proper thing is going to be done. Obviously, this is a generic issue, not confined to only this report, but I seek to draw attention of the House that the people of Ghana are looking up to us to ensure accountability, and value for money audits clearly are one of the most recognized avenues through which we can be accountable to the people and execute our oversight responsibilities. On this note, I support the motion, but I look forward to a day when we would have it recorded that value for money audits have been presented to committees. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, as many as are in... What's it there? As many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those against the motion, say no. Honorable members, it's obvious the ayes have it. The motion is adopted.
Yes. Speaker, we will put a hold on the resolution on that consequential item and go on to page 6. Page 6 and take item 11.
Honorable members, may I now turn you back to page 6, item 11. Let me invite the chairman of the committee to move the loan agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move that this Honourable House adopt the report of the Finance Committee on the Credendo Covered Buyers Credit Facility Agreement among the Government of the Republic of Ghana, KBC Bank, NB, and Commerce Bank AG as arrangers and original lenders, and KBC Bank as agent for a total sum of 74,145,500 euros, made up of 65 million euros and the associated Credendo premium of 9,145,500 euros for the Takwa water supply project. Mr. Speaker, the overall objective of the project is to expand access to potable water supply to the inhabitants of Takwa and its adjoining communities by expanding the capacity of existing Bonsa water supply system and extending access to adjoining communities. Mr. Speaker, the terms and conditions of the facility are clearly indicated under paragraph 6 of the report. The committee's observations and the financial impact covered under paragraph 8. The issues relating to value for money audit were discussed by the committee, and our observations covered under paragraph 8.2. In conclusion, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the committee, after a careful examination of the agreement, is convinced that when the facility is approved, it will help achieve the objective, and therefore recommend to this august House to approve the facility. Respectfully submitted, I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes. Honourable members, the motion has been moved. Yes. The ranking member.
Objection. Water. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion, and in doing so, I wish to say that the terms of the facility as presented to us states that the interest rate is 1.1% plus 6 months LIBOR. Again, we were informed that the government of Ghana will be paying commitment fee of 0.4% and an upfront fee of 1% to support the water facility in the Takwa area. Mr. Speaker, my concern relates to the fact that government of Ghana is taking a loan of 65 million euros, but we are paying insurance premium of 9.1 million euros. Mr. Speaker, this means that the insurance for the facility alone is 14% of the loan amount. I recognize that this is high, but I will only urge the Ministry of Finance going forward to start working on our insurance premium, because, Speaker, it looks as if Ghana is paying so much insurance on some of these export credit agency loans. Speaker, clearly, the loan itself is quite cheap, but the associated insurance is something that we should be worried about. And that is why I urge the Ministry of Finance to be looking out for the reasons why Ghana all of a sudden has started paying huge insurance on loans that we've been taking. Mr. Speaker, the second point relates to the fact that value for money audit was not done at the time that we held this meeting. I drew the attention of the Finance Ministry and the Ministry of Works and Housing to the fact that it is now a requirement under the Public Investment Management to ensure that value for money audit is done before the loan becomes effective. Mr. Speaker, I am of the view that though we have no reasons to oppose this loan, because, Mr. Speaker, it is for the provision of water, and water is life. And so you are approving a facility for life. And so obviously we should approve it. But it should be subject to them performing value for money audit. Mr. Speaker, that is imperative. And I support it, but it should be subject to value for money audit being performed. Mr. Speaker, I refer you to page 8, item 8.2, value for money audit. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, if I may read. It says that the committee noted that the ministry had not completed the value for money audit on the project for the supply of water to Takwa and its adjoining communities. The committee noted further that value for money is a very important tool for parliamentary scrutiny, and it enables Parliament to assess the efficient and effective use of public funds. Mr. Speaker, clearly it's something that all of us has come into conclusion that this value for money audit should be done. But I think it has become one too many that facilities come to this house, they tell us value for money audit will be done, and eventually they will inform us, but nobody comes back to us. The only way we can hold them to accountability is for us to tie it to effectiveness of the law. So what I'm suggesting is that we should approve it subject to value for money audit being done. Until value for money audit is being done, the loan cannot be effective and they cannot draw down the facility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, the motion has been moved and it has been seconded. It is before the House. You invite one from each side to contribute to the motion. If nobody is ready to contribute, let him come to leadership. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to emphasize the point made by the ranking member. That is, we approve of the facility subject to the ministry availing the House of the value for money audit. I think it's important. But having said so, Mr. Speaker, on countless occasions, I've suggested to the committees of this House that we avail some money for this purpose. So we don't just have to wait and rely on whatever comes from the ministry or from the executive wing of government. We ourselves should be in a position to contract experts to do this for us. So whereas I agree that we should wait for theirs, if we have any doubts, we can also contract some body to do that for and on behalf of this House. So at least we are able to compare the two, because it's becoming one too many. And no parliament, no serious parliament avails itself of value for money audits submitted by the executive. And they are done with it. We need really to go further. And just so that we're able to synchronize, we should get Parliament to do this on our own part. So when it comes from the executive, we'll be in a position to compare. I think that's a better way to do it. But I think for the time being, we would expect that we approve of this subject to the executive bringing them. But if we want to go further downstream, we have some resources that we can support. Insurance as well. So we can do this. And it's for us to do it. It's for us to do it.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what leader said is, I agree perfectly with leader, that Parliament must also do the value for money audit. The challenge, however, is the timing, because it takes time for the value for money audit to be completed. So what will be done by Parliament could be after the approval, because if you want to wait for the report to come back before, then we might not approve the agreement on time. So I think that we should bring that angle to it. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely what you're saying, because oftentimes when these come from the executive, they are time bound, and which is what we are doing now. But if after we conduct our own value for money, that's done for us by a certified outfit, and then from a particular ministry we get to know that what value for money that they have been submitted to us is suspicious, then certainly we'll be placed in a position to query that ministry. I don't believe in that. Not until we're able to synchronize the two, what we do here and what they bring to us. We'll not approve of whatever contract they are coming to this house with. And it will strengthen Parliament's oversight. I think that's the way to go, Speaker.
Well, honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in favour of the motion, say aye. I didn't hear the response well. As many as are in favour of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those against the motion, say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted.
Speaker, we should be taking item 13. I'll seek your leave, the Deputy Minister of Finance, to take it. The Honourable.
Is it 16 or what?
Item 12. Be taken by the Deputy Minister of Finance. Sorry.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution captured as item 12 on pages 6 and 7 of today's order paper be adopted now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the motion has been moved. Yes, Honourable.
Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Honourable members, the motion on the resolution has been moved. The question is, as many as are in favour of the resolution, say aye. Those against, say no. Honourable members, I think the ayes have it. The resolution is hereby adopted.
Speaker, we can now go on to page 10 and take item 16. And Speaker, with your leave, the Deputy Minister is here to take it instead of the Minister.
Honourable members, may I now invite you to page 10, item 16. Page 10, item 16, resolution. Honourable Deputy Minister for Works and Housing.
Water and sanitation.
Water and sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move for the adoption of item number 16 as contained in pages 10 and 11 of today's order paper. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chairman.
Yes. I rise to second the motion. Thank you.
Honourable members, the motion for the resolution has been moved and has been seconded. The question is, as many as are in favour of the resolution, say aye. Those against, say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted.
Speaker, we are ready to take item 5 now. Item 5. Item number 5.
Very well. Item number 5, question time. May I respectfully invite the Minister for Communication and Digitization to take the appropriate seat. So we begin with the urgent questions. Question 5A. Question 5A. And the question stands in the name of a member for Is it Bungrugu Yoyo? Bungrugu Yoyo. Honorable Abed Nego Azuma Bandin. Honorable, yes. The minister is available. You may read your, you may.
Thank you.
Ask your question.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. The constituency is Bunkurugu. Yunyo has been detached from the constituency.
Very well.
Thank you. I thank you so much for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization what measures the ministry will put in place to stop the extortion of money from residents of Nakwanduri, Bimbagu, by officers undertaking the ongoing SIM card registration exercise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the SIM registration exercise is currently free for all subscribers, and no fee is charged for the process. We've received information that some individuals are extorting various sums of money from the unsuspecting public under the guise of the registration exercise. Mr. Speaker, we urge anyone who has knowledge of this or is a victim of this practice to report any such unsanctioned actions to the NCA through the toll-free and hotline numbers for appropriate action to be taken. The toll-free number 0800 110 622 is available from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. The hotline 0307 011 419 is open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays. The ministry has directed the NCA and the mobile network operators to put measures in place to clamp down on individuals who are taking advantage of the SIM card registration exercise to extort money from unsuspecting Ghanaians. Some of the measures are outlined below. The NCA encourages all stakeholders to report such activities to them. It has set up monitoring teams that conduct on-spot monitoring of the SIM registration exercise. When reports of illegal payments are received, the NCA works with the network operators to identify the agent responsible for this infraction through the agent reporting feature on the SIM registration app, and the MNOs subsequently terminate the contract of that agent. MNOs are collaborating with the Ghana Police Service to arrest individuals involved in this act. Some MTN agents at Fantin and Kumasi were arrested recently and will be prosecuted to deter other deviants. Operators have sent SMS communications to their agents, warning them to desist from such behavior, as anyone found engaging in such acts will be dealt with. All MNOs have given assurances that such practices will not be condoned. Mr. Speaker, I'll urge the Honourable Member to provide details of the incidents he complains about to the NCA for action to be taken against the perpetrators. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Zuma, any further question?
Yes, right, Honorable Speaker. I thank the Minister for providing the answer to my question. It was filed on the 15th of February, and at that time, we had also taken some measures to prevent the situation. For the information of the Minister, it was reported to the NCA and then also MTN as well. And when the people demanded money before they could register the people, they were resisted and they left the towns that I've stated, Nakwanduri and Bimbagu, to different communities as a form of punishment for the people to commute to those places to register. Subsequently, NCA came there, and I was in the constituency and joined them on their monitoring exercise. So I want to thank the Minister for the answer. Oh, so I'm rather actually complimenting you for, and then NCA, because when they visited, I was there. So it is just for your information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So you are okay with the answer? Very well. Thank you very much. So we move to B. We move to B. And It's the turn of Timpani, Member of Parliament, Honorable Lydia Lamisi Akanvaliba. Yes, Honorable Lydia, let's hear you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I asked this question as an urgent question when Ghanaians were in long queues to register their SIMs or re-register their SIMs. And if you, with your kind permission, I want to read Order 64, which says that a question shall not be asked without notice unless it is an urgent character relating either to a matter of public importance or the arrangement of business, and by proud leave of Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I asked this question on the 1st of February 2022, and it is now that the question is being answered. I think it has outlived its usefulness, but all the same, I would like to ask the Minister. Thank you, Madam Minister, for coming to answer the question at this time. But if I may ask, I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization what urgent steps the Ministry is taking to reduce the overcrowding at SIM registration centers across the country. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the answers have been ready for months. It was actually tabled to be answered prior to the House adjourning for the last recess. However, due to the business of the House, even though it was on the order paper, I was not given the opportunity to provide the answers. So the answers being delayed were due to no fault of the Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry continues to monitor the SIM registration process and holds regular meetings with all network operators, service providers, and the NCA to devise strategies to facilitate the registration exercise and resolve identified challenges. Some of the measures deployed to reduce congestion at the registration outlets are as follows. MNOs have been directed to increase the number of agents and devices for the registration process. A self-service app is being developed to complement the agent's app for the registration. It will be available by the end of this month. Community ICT centers, CICs, and post offices have been made available to be included as service points, centers, to support the existing outlets created by the network operators. MNOs have adopted a strategy to register SIMs in the communities, churches, mosques, and at event venues to bring the registration closer to the people. I'm aware that they've been to Parliament House several times to register both members and staff. All network operators are also ready and willing to set up registration points at various office locations when invited to do so. Mr. Speaker, the deadline for the exercise was extended by 4 months, and it will end on 31st July 2022. It will not be extended again, and I take this opportunity to urge everyone who has not yet registered their SIM cards to do so by 31st July 2022. Mr. Speaker, these measures are being used to speed up the registration process, and there is no overcrowding at any registration center currently. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Lydia, any supplementary question?
Yeah. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Madam Minister. As a follow-up, in your answer, you said you will not extend the registration exercise. In my constituency, currently there are no registration centers at all. Those that are doing the registration are just private people who register, seems to take some small amounts from them. At the same time, it is difficult to get a Ghana card in my constituency. So what happened to those who are not able to register their SIMs by the end of July, 31st July of this year? Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the network operators are required to set up registration centers in all areas where they operate. And so I will notify them that you have indicated that there are no registration centers in Timpani, the entire Timpani. I find that difficult to understand. So I will notify them and urge them to set up registration centers there. They have mandated their agents and equipped them with the requisite tools to register. So there may be individuals who are moving around registering who have been equipped by the network operators as their agents to register. I'll urge them to step up their efforts, but the registration deadline will not be extended. Thank you.
Well. Yes, Honorable, your last supplementary question.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Let's go on.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. The issue currently is not just about the SIM registration alone. The Ghana card is a problem to come by in the constituency. So if the people are not able to get a Ghana card, it will be difficult for them to also get the SIM registered. With the fact that there are no registration centers, there is another challenge of getting the Ghana card. Please, Madam Minister, can you assure us or the people of Timpani that they will be able to register to have all their Ghana cards before the end of July this year? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I believe the National Identification Authority has put in place measures to ensure that all those who require the Ghana cards will get them. And so they would be in a position to give this House that assurance. I cannot give this House that assurance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the NIA is not able to provide the people with the Ghana card. So, since the source document or the issue is about linking your NIA number with your mobile number, the people are disabled to go ahead because I don't have the card. How can I link the card number to my mobile number? So, will the minister take that into consideration with the decision of not extending it again? Will you take that into consideration? Because it's very important. The people don't have the card. And that is the document, the number they need to link their number. The two of you are not talking to each other. You are not talking to each other. That is why the NIA is not able to provide members with a card. And for that matter, I cannot link my NIA number, which I don't have, to my mobile number. So this is very important, and the minister should take that into consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, prior to the extension of the deadline for the SIM registration exercise, we all witnessed queues at all the registration centers for both the NIA card and the SIM registration exercise. As soon as the deadline was extended, everybody went back to sleep. And so people will be available to register individuals who wanted the Ghana card, and people were not turning up for it. The National Identification Authority and the National Communications Authority are in constant communications about how they can facilitate this process. It is incumbent on us as citizens to also take advantage of the processes put in place to facilitate these national exercises and ensure their success. But if we do not act timeously and go to sleep, hoping that the deadline will be extended again, I'm standing here assuring the entire country that the deadline will not be extended. All I can do is to encourage those who do not have the Ghana card to take steps to acquire it between now and 31st July. The NIA stands ready to provide those who want the cards with the cards. As we speak, if you go to their registration centers, many will be found to be very sparsely populated. So I can only reiterate the fact that the deadline will not be extended. If people have challenges acquiring the Ghana card, I'll encourage them to contact the nearest National Identification Authority office for their Ghana card. I am aware that it is also another deadline which is looming, is the 1st of July, for those who want to undertake banking transactions to link their bank accounts with their national ID cards. So it is not just the SIM registration exercise which requires the Ghana card. So I'll urge all those who don't have it to get it, because the time is fast running out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the issue is not about the people not going to, they are not going to get a Ghana card. The Ghana NIA is not able to register them and issue the card to them. That is a fact. They are not there. If you go to the district, they are not even able to print the cards. That is a problem. That is a problem. It is not the fault of the people. It is the inability of the NIA to issue the card to the people. That is what the problem is. So if you are not aware, it's an information, because we are down there in our villages. We know what is happening. So we are telling you that this is the problem. They go there, the district level, they are not able to print the cards. They are not registering the people. And the people want the card. What should they do?
Speaker, in as much as I sympathize with my colleague in leadership, I also have contrary reports. And with respect to him, contrary reports for my area, I'm aware the exercise is going on smoothly. So probably, I may want to suggest that leaders should engage the minister. This is not something we should break our heads over. Should engage the NIA and find a way of dealing with them. Otherwise, we may not be able to find the answers right in this chamber now. It's not a matter that we should overflow.
Well, I think this issue.
Apart from that, I think table officers here, they will bear me witness, and the business committee, my colleague was there. The decision has been made by the business committee that will reach out to the NIA to come and apprise us accordingly on this specific matter.
Well, that was what I was going to, because last week this issue came up in this chamber. So as much as the business committee is going to reach out to Honorable Minister, may I also respectfully also try to reach out with the NIE people, so that the problem will not be tossing here and there, because there may be people genuinely desirous to go through the process, but if their services are not available, it will be difficult for us to go through the process. Is it not the same thing? Let me hear Honorable.
No, me, please sit down.
No. Proverb man.
Sit down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
for the opportunity. He pointed at me.
Have you given any proverb in this house before?
Uh-huh.
I said proverb man. ABA Hussein.
Mr. Speaker, you don't show an indigent the way to his house. I'm sure it's a matter of course. Respectfully, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. This issue of the Ghana card, Mr. Speaker, is of crucial importance to the good people of this country. And I concede that the Honorable Minister here does not exercise oversight over the NIA. And so should be very constrained as it is to, as we talk about. And Mr. Speaker, I would therefore respectfully apply that we get the Mr. Ken Atifwa, sorry, no disrespect, Professor Ken Atifwa, to come back to this house because he is properly anchored on a strong pedestal to answer this question. Mr. Speaker, just so as to add that, in respect of this matter, the Minister for Communications will bear eloquent testimony to the fact that we on this side, at a meeting in her office, had pointed out this same matter in respect of LI 2111, and that mandated the use of the Ghana card as a principal document. But we did indicate that given the nature of this exercise and the fact that millions of Ghanaians did not have the NIA card, the Ghana card, it should be possible to source other documents. And we indeed indicate the passport, the voter's ID card, and some other forms of verifiable identification would have sufficed to open up that matter. And so, Mr. Speaker, now that even the NIA himself, the boss himself came here before this house and indicated that they don't even have offices across many districts of the country and that they are financially constrained to open up that matter. It should bring this matter back to the
Honorable Member, I think you jump over the gun. We are talking about it's not using other cars. We are not there yet. So, honorable members.
So, Mr. Speaker, you know, when the landlord is there to tell the eloquent of his story, of his house, you don't ask the caretaker for confirmation. I'm sure that it should be possible for us to get the minister working with a colleague to get the NIA to come here and respond to this particular issue because it's a very critical matter for the good people of this country.
Thank you very much.
Submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to comment briefly on the supplementary answer provided by the Honourable Minister for Communications. We agree that she's constrained, but she's also
Honourable Whip, I've given him the opportunity.
Respect, if I may, if you indulge me, Speaker, I would respect my colleague. It's question time. And what I said, what I sought to say when I came and you allowed me to speak was to clarify the point that at the business committee, where both leadership represents, a decision has been made that the authority and the leadership of the NIA should be programmed to come and apprise us accordingly, specific to this matter. So if it is related to this matter, colleague, probably you should either ask your follow-up question or stay clear.
Yes. Speaker, I will convert my brief commentary to a supplementary question. I raised the matter last week as a matter of record. Mr. Speaker, I heard the minister say that her ministry will not extend the SIM registration time, and that she's urging everybody from today, the 23rd of June, to do so by the 30th of July. Mr. Speaker, the difficulty on the ground is that, for instance, in Southern, it takes somebody about 150 cities to travel from Ajebu to Peking just to go and queue and get registered. When they register, the card is not immediately available. She or he has to go back to come back for, and because of this small economic barrier, you think that it's small, but it's a lot for the rural dweller. So it's a disincentive for them to be traveling to the district center to get registered. So our plea is that the officers who are stationed at the district office for NIA should do zonal registration. They don't want to do that. So I just want to ask her whether, given this background, she will consider extending the time to the end of the year. To the end of the year, because we serve people's interest in this chamber. And the interests of our people whose elected representatives are very important. And she is an elected
Honorable
representative.
member, you have not asked a question. It's okay. You've heard your comment.
Mr. Speaker, on that note, my question is that will she consider extending the time to December instead of July?
He was emphatic, no. She was emphatic, no. So we move to question 6. Oh, the minister has re-emphasized that.
The question is not to you. The question is not directed at you. We want the minister. It's a plea from the member.
Okay.
But the way you did it, you have already closed the door.
Mr. Speaker, the deadline will not be extended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the minister consider a window for those whose card have not been delivered to be able to register whenever they get? Because as you may know, if you've registered and your card have not been given to you, you'll not be able to use the card to authenticate for the, what you call the SIM registration. Will she consider a window for some people? Because other than that, they will just be lost out, not out of their own making, but because NIA could not get them the card. Will she consider a window for those who have already registered but not gotten their card to be able to keep their numbers until the cards are ready? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, those who do not have the NIA cards still have time between now and 31st of July to acquire it. And so the question of windows and doors will not arise until we get to that point. And I will not stand here and speculate. We are constantly monitoring the exercise. We'll take whatever requisite actions are necessary. I can only reiterate my admonition, for want of a better word, that those who have not registered their SIM cards should endeavor to do so between now and the end of the period set aside for the purpose, which is 31st July 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, let's move on. Honourable, I'm inclined to give you the opportunity. It's a long time I saw. So.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard the admonition from my sister, the Minister for Communication. But there are realities on the ground. Mr. Speaker, there are Ghanaians who registered for their Ghana card 2 to 3 years ago and have still not received their cards. They go to the registration centers and their names cannot be found anywhere. They are asked to go to the national office. They go there and challenges. Secondly, currently as we speak, in my constituency, you go to the office, there are no cards. They will take you through the process, but you'll be asked to come back 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You go back, the card is not available. There are challenges on the ground. So, I'm not answering a question. I'm bringing information to my
Well noted. Well noted. Honourable members, no, I'm not.
There are challenges on the ground.
Honourable members, I'm not entertaining any question with respect to
challenges.
The Chief Whip have already indicated to the House that per the Business Committee meeting, if you agreed to invite the the good professor in respect of NIE to this house. So please, let's focus this part. So we move to question 6. Question 6. 6260. 260. And it still stands in the name of a member for Timpani, Honorable Lydia Lamisi. Lydia.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I respectfully rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization the importance of the SIM re-registration exercise in this country. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the SIM registration exercise, which commenced on 1st October 2021, will reduce or eliminate fraudulent and criminal activities facilitated by mobile phones or SIM-enabled devices. It will help authorities to ascertain the real number of valid and accurate SIMs on the mobile networks, enable operators to build better demographics of their customer base, and help them develop products and services to suit these various groupings. The National Communications Authority will also have a more accurate and credible database to regulate the industry better. SIM registration will also enhance economic growth as more confidence is built in the telecommunications sector and people utilize secure devices to access mobile-based digital solutions, both private and public. It will minimize mobile money and other digital financial services fraud. It will promote cybersecurity and support financial inclusion. A credible and reliable SIM register will also serve as a database, giving comprehensive statistics regarding the number of subscribers in Ghana, and also provide a resource for tracking cyber fraudsters and criminals. I reiterate that the exercise, which was expected to end on 31st March 2022, has been extended to 31st July 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Lydia.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Understanding the importance of the SIM registration enumerated by the Honorable Minister, I want to find out what is the guarantee that everybody in this country will be able to register the SIMs before the deadline given as 31st July 2020, considering the difficulties in getting the only source that you can use to register your SIM. Thank you so much.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is no guarantee because people may choose not to register their SIMs. So there is really no guarantee. Anybody who is willing to do so has the opportunity to do so. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, your last supplementary question.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Listening to the Honorable Minister, I want to find out what will happen to those people who are not able to register their SIMs. And if so, is it possible that any other person or any other document can be used to register the SIM if you are not able to get your Ghana card before the end of July this year? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the question was on the importance of the exercise, to which an answer has been given. So if the honourable member requires additional information, I'll urge her to file a substantive question to that effect, and I will come and give the requisite answer to it, since this is a house of record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, let him come to Women's Caucus.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. My question is to find out from the Honourable Minister how the Ministry of Communication is going to collaborate with the National Identification Authority to ensure that Ghanaians who are yet to have access to the Ghana card, they get it so that they will be able to register their SIM card. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thought your question has been answered. How they are collaborating. Okay. How your ministry and NIA.
Mr. Speaker, the question that I'm answering is on the importance of the SIM registration exercise, to which the answer has been given. So I'll urge the honourable member to file the substantive question, and I'll come and give the appropriate answer to this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes. Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I would like to know from the Minister the effective communication and education they corroborate for the Ghana card people to allow or to send it throughout the people on the ground to know about this Ghana card exercise and the deadline. Thank you.
I didn't get your question. Personally, I don't know whether the minister got it. Minister, did you get the question? So, Honorable, may you repeat your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know the education and the communication that the ministry and the Ghana card have sent throughout the citizen about the Ghana card exercise and the deadline. Thank you.
Honourable Member, if I ask you to file a substantive question, I hope that will be okay. Because personally, I still didn't get the import of your question. And I believe the minister also didn't get the import of the question. Yes, Leader Comfort.
Mr. Speaker, no, I'm not explaining the question. I want to know from the minister, is she aware of the corruption surrounding Ghana card and it's making it difficult for people to get the card? So he should take all those things into consideration and expand the time for the.
My understanding is that Ghana card is not under her ministry. Right? I've answered her. It's not under her ministry. So, no, probably going to stand order. This is 62. 62. So 62 to questions relating to matters which are under the control of a statutory body must be restricted to those matters for which a minister is made responsible by law or of which affect his ministry. So if the question or the issue does not relate to the minister's ministry, I think to be fair that we don't push the minister to answer those questions. So we move to 261. 261. Timpani, you are there again. Okay, let's hear you.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. Please, I rise to ask the Honourable Minister for communication and digitalization. What urgent steps the ministry is taking to get the Data Protection Commission, DPC, a permanent structure? And how does the ministry pay for the current office location every year? Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Data Protection Commission is currently operating from rented premises situated on the Popor Street, East Legon, at a monthly rent of the cedi equivalent of $3,000. Efforts have been made to secure permanent office accommodation from public sources for the Commission by writing to both the Ministry of Works and Housing and the Office of the Chief of Staff. These efforts have not yielded the required positive results yet. The Ministry will continue to have discussions with the state agencies charged with providing office accommodation for public institutions such as the DPC, and is hopeful of a fruitful outcome soon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Lydia.
Thank you again for the opportunity, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, as a government that has pledged to protect the public purse, and given the widespread economic hardship Ghanaians face, Honourable Minister, could we have rented a less expensive office space and channel the remaining money into putting up a permanent office space for the Data Protection Agency instead of running such an expensive place? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the member knows of suitable premises to house the DPC, which are less expensive than their current accommodation, I'd be grateful if she provides me with that information. Thank you.
Your last supplementary question, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Please, can the Honourable Minister assure this Honourable House how the fruitful discussion will be, what will be the needed outcome? And if the outcomes fail, what will be the next line of action to get the data protection a better place or a cheaper place? Thank you so much.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what assurance the honourable member wants me to give, but as I indicated in my letter, in my answer, there are public agencies charged with the duty of providing office accommodation for public institutions. I am engaging those public agencies. I believe that when Honourable Atachia was the minister, we first wrote to them and they indicated that they didn't have accommodation at the time. And so we can only hope that these efforts would achieve positive outcomes. And we continue to engage with them to ensure that the DPC acquires suitable office accommodation. That's the only assurance that I can give to this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We move to question 263. Question 263. And the question stands in the name of a member for Karachi East. Karachi East, Wisdom, Gidisu. Yes, Honourable Member, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise as the Minister for Communications and Digitalization when the following communities in Karachi's constituency will be connected to the telephone communication network: Pai Old Town, Motorway, Kofi Mango, Jerusalem, Amuzukope, Sikape, Yabrai, and Mempasel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was wondering how I could provide connectivity to Jerusalem in Israel, but this is Jerusalem in Karachi East. Mr. Speaker, currently 14 beneficiary communities in the Karachi East District are included in Phase 1 of the Ghana Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project, and they are at various stages of completion. 7 of the communities, namely Nanso, Edumedum, Abrewanko, Chambakura, Plesu, Kunda, and Napua, have sites constructed which are yet to be commissioned. The Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications has acquired land for 3 other communities, namely Game Kope, Okanease, and Ayirem Okpachiri. And these are ready for infrastructure construction. Land is yet to be acquired for 4 of the communities, namely Ayite Kope, Tofam Kope, Oti Regional Coordination Council, and Karachi Nyamebwa. The 8 communities mentioned in the question are not included in Phase 1, but will be captured under Phase 2 of the project after connectivity drive tests by GIFIC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Yes, Wisdom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Minister for this initiative. And we would also like to find out from her, when will the commissioning be done on these 7 completed projects? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
The processes for activating those sites are ongoing, and there are a number of factors that have militated against its completion, including donor sites and power. But those processes are currently ongoing. I can't give a specific time frame, but definitely before the end of the year, those processes will be completed. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The 8 communities mentioned in the question, with a population of over 20,000 people, are completely cut off from Ghana. That means you go there for 3 or 4 or 5 days, 1 week, you are cut off. You can't get access to anybody in the country. So I want to know from the Minister when the connectivity drive test will be done by GIFIC for the commencement of Phase 2. Thank you.
Very well.
Phase 1 was scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. However, due to the pandemic, which occasioned the inability of the contractors to continue working for the period, it's been extended till the end of next year. We're hoping that we can start Phase 2 alongside Phase 1 sometime next year. But the processes for Phase 2 include acquiring the site. So I'm glad that you have notified us of these 8 communities. They will be included in the list of sites to be covered under Phase 2. It is when that process is complete that they will do the connectivity drive test. But the processes for commencing Phase 2 haven't yet begun until Phase 1 is completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah,
I want to thank the Minister for that, and then take her by her words. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, can we have connectivity in communities that do not have electricity?
It's difficult but not impossible. Some of these sites are solar powered, and so for the solar powered sites, it's possible. But a lot of other factors go into providing connectivity, including the appropriate technology to use, and so the topography of the area also factors into it, and whether there is a donor site, a site from which they can tap into the systems to connect to this particular site. So that's why they have to conduct the connectivity drive test to determine what kind of technology will be suitable for the provision of the service there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we move to question 264. 264. And the question stands in the name of a member for Bulsa South. Bulsa South. Honorable Dr. Clement Apak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization the plans in place to immediately improve mobile telephony in the following communities in the Bulsa South constituency: Doninga, Bachongsa, not Bachangsa. This was corrected last week Friday during the presentation of the business statement. So I'm surprised as to why the wrong spelling has reappeared. Bachongsa, Bachongsa. Yipala, Uwasi, Uesi, Bedembilisi, Chansa, and Gopsa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications has included 2 beneficiary communities in the Bulsa South constituency, namely Bedembilisi and Chansa, in the rural telephony project. In Bedembilisi, land has been acquired, whilst the Chansa site has been built and is ready for activation. The other 6 communities will be considered under phase 2 of the project after connectivity drive tests by GIFEC. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Clement Apak, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate the positive feedback from the Minister. I would want to know when the Bedembilisi site would be built, if there is any indication of a timeline.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the process is ongoing, so I can't give a definitive time when this particular site will be built, but it will definitely be part of the sites that are completed by the end of next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Clement, your last question. 2 supplementary questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister speaks about the remaining communities being considered under phase 2. Is there any indication on when phase 2 would commence? Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Yes, Minister.
Phase 1 will end by the end of 2023. And we're hopeful that phase 2 can, but phase 2 will commence after phase 1 ends. But the processes for commencing phase 2 would start before then, because we would have to come back to the House for approval for that. So I'm hoping that members would facilitate the early completion of those processes so that phase 2 can commence. Thank you.
Honourable members, we move to question 811. Question 811. Sam George, are you facilitating for your minister? Question 811. Yes, my brother, let's hear you.
Right, Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Member for Upper Dencha West is unavoidably absent, and he has asked me to ask the question on his behalf. So with your permission, thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communication projects in the following communities will be completed: James Nkwanta, Nyinawusu, Besiase, Bofiedu, Triposo.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, GIFEC has completed construction of cell sites in James Sunkwanta, Nyinawusu, and Treposo under Phase 1 of the Rural Telephony Project. These sites are currently active for all subscribers, and so work on these sites have been completed. Besiase and Brofuyedu will be considered under Phase 2 of the project after connectivity drive tests by GIFEC. Thank you.
Were you given the mandate to ask supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to know from the Minister which department or agency will be responsible for maintenance of the facility should any of the three completed develop in default or there's a problem with it.
Yes, Minister, tell him something.
Mr. Speaker, this is a substantive question that I need to seek information on, since this is a house of record, before I give the response. So I'll urge the member to file a substantive question to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Speaker, the other follow-up question is also has to do with if the facility is using electricity, which agency will be responsible for payment. So I believe it is still in line with it. The facility. If it is using electricity, which agency will be responsible for the payment of the bill, electricity bill, if any accrues from the projects?
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all sites need a power source. So it's either electricity or solar. And since those who are using those facilities will be paying to use those facilities, the revenue generated will be plowed back to maintain those facilities. And so those are the kind of arrangements that will be put in place for maintaining this network once it is up and running. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. We move to the last question. Is Suhun here? Is up. But the point is, I've observed that people have been asking his question on his behalf. Is it yesterday or so? Somebody asked a question on his behalf. It's not been coming.
Speaker, for the records, the Honourable Member for Suhum filed the leave of absence. He's taking an official leave.
Very well. So who is asking the question on his behalf?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker.
The first is.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In reference to the order stated today, I seek your leave to represent the Honourable Member of Suhum, Kudwa Sanche. I rise to ask the Minister to represent him to ask the Minister. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the network system in the following communities would be completed. Dawa, Nsuta, Wawaso, Achunibidia, Kujase, No, Papa Bebida, Apunopuno, Adidiso, Taka Asum, and Abuna for this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I avoided repeating the names of the communities in my answer because some of them are a bit tongue twisted. So, Mr. Speaker, GIFEC has completed construction in Dawa and in Suta Wawase and activated the network for use by subscribers. Land has been acquired in the remaining communities as part of the next phase of the project, and GIFEC is working to get all acquired sites built and installed. I thank you.
Yes. Do you have any supplementary questions?
Speaker, I'm very satisfied with the response. Thank you.
Very well. On that note, we bring question time to a close. Honorable Minister, on behalf of the House, let me thank you very much for attending upon the House to answer 8 different questions from members, your own members. And this appreciation is also coming from St. George. He's signaling me that I should thank you very much. So, Minister, we wish you well. We are hereby discharged.
Speaker, earlier on, leadership had agreed take a statement which stands in the name of the Honorable Kofi Adams. I think it's in reference to the former president. After which, there are 2 motions in respect of the Finance Committee. So, Speaker, if you indulge me, we'll take that statement in the name of Honorable Kofi Adams, except to say that he should be brief, as Speaker, you have already directed. It shouldn't go beyond 5 minutes, and I hope you will comply.
Very well. So let me invite Honorable Member for Buim, Honorable Kofi Idi Adams, to make a statement on occasion of the 75th anniversary of the birth of former President Jerry John Rawlings. So, Honorable Member, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must say that this is a statement that should have been read yesterday, and so it should be captured as such. Even though I'm reading it today, it should be captured accordingly. And it's a very short statement, and I assure the Chief Whip that it won't take much time. I say, as here. Mr. Speaker, former President Jerry John Rawlings, the first president of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, turned 75 yesterday, but for his unfortunate and sudden demise on the 12th of November 2020. The former president, Mr. Speaker, endeared himself to many for his charisma, sincerity, drive, and patriotism. He was a simple man, the trappings of leadership to cloud his judgment, and did not hesitate to embrace all, especially the masses who most of the time felt alienated from authority. He was, the Speaker, a stickler for discipline and respect for authority, and did all in his power to ensure that people who were committed to a project, so long as they dedicated themselves with discipline. It is thus not surprising that he had a weakness for the pugilistic sport, boxing. And Mr. Speaker, his relationship to the success story of Ghana's greatest boxer, Azumah Nelson, better tells the story. Mr. Speaker, I am reliably informed that to mark his 75th birthday, the J.J. Rawlings Foundation organized a roundtable discussion on the role President Rawlings played in boxing. And yesterday, a number of our colleagues here, Mr. Speaker, attended that function. It is noteworthy that this illustrious son of Ghana is being remembered through various forums for the significant impact he made on his country. It was remarkable that on June 4th, there were events in Nkwanta in the Oti region, Accra, that all eulogized the role of Jerry John. The exhibition and theater performance at the Ghana Academy of Arts and Science was a great recollection, especially for the youth, many of whom are poorly equipped and have been misinformed on the role Chairman Rawlings played. Mr. Speaker, remembering President Rawlings' role in boxing is significant. It proves his selflessness and the fact he possessed that character trait long before he became president. Accounts of the May 15th and June 4, 1979 actions clearly indicate his desire to protect the downtrodden and his anger at the abuse of ordinary people by political authority and well-to-do business people. Mr. Speaker, Azumah Nelson recounts his knowledge of President Rawlings with such candor, and I will quote exactly what he said speaking to Sports Obama, Mr. Speaker. When I was a teenage boxer, this is Azumah speaking, the Ghana Army used to attend World Military Games. There was this US boxer who always beat everyone every year. Even though I wasn't an Army member, the Army drafted me into the Ghana Army boxing team for the games so I could stop the guy. Once we were come to national training school, one young military man will always be cooking yam for us. Times were really hard in Ghana that we struggled to get food to eat. When the military man went out to get the yam, we would usually eat without stew. This young man will again go in search again, as he puts it. Then he will come back with beans. He cooks and we eat. In the night, we the amateur boxers in camp will be asking ourselves where he got the beans. He never told us. Early in the morning, once we set out for training, he will come to us. By the time we return from training, he would have cleaned our rooms and mopped the place. We got astonished how a military man could do that. When we asked him to leave the cleaning for us, he will say no. He tells us we are going to serve Ghana, so he needed to serve us. These were times that people dreaded an encounter with a military man. We were all shocked. One day, I approached him and suggested to him that I wanted to join the army. He looked me in the face and said no. He told me, the spirit in me is beyond the military, so I should stick to boxing because that is where my greatness will come from. I heed advice. When we returned from one of our fights abroad, there had been a coup, and I realized he was the one who plotted it. He had taken control over the whole country at that age. To be honest, and this is Azuma speaking again, to be honest, I was least surprised. He was so selfless and didn't want people to be cheated. People can have other opinions about him, but I got to know him from times he was unknown, and I always felt his desire. This is Azuma Nelson talking to Sports Obama about His Excellency Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Mr. Speaker, the former professional boxer who had a lifelong relationship with the former president could not have described him any better. The former president committed himself not only to the development of Azuma Nelson, but to a lesser extent the likes of Ikote, Nanaya Okonedu, Alfred Kote, Isaac Dogbe, and recently Bukum Bankun, who wept bitterly when President Rawlings passed. Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings was a man of many parts, and it is heartwarming that we are remembering him through several events, statements, and performances. It is also important that today's theme is titled J.J. Rawlings' Contribution to the Sport and the Way Forward. In remembering him, let us also take a cue and identify how best to add to his achievement in both other spheres of life. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes. Let me invite Asumaba, member for Ebuakwa South.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And I'm a bit amazed that we are remembering the birthday of our departed leader. I find it very interesting. And with the little space I have, I would say that the whole personality we are about to, talk about is an encyclopedia. We can never finish talking about him because of the many, many, many powerful things that were mixed in that personality. But it's the first time hearing that he also gave birth to boxers. I can't believe that this is the man, who was our head of state. And I was interested in individuals bringing out their best potentials. They could see talent from afar. And he did everything in his power so that these talents will come out and bless our country. Honourable Speaker, one of the things I find very interesting and exciting is that here is a man who never wanted to be promoted in the Ghana Armed Forces. One of the things which is very, very significant. He was bigger than a flight lieutenant. At all material time, I didn't understand why at that low level of a rank in the Ghana Armed Forces, when every indication was that it would not be wrong to call him a general. And that is the extent of that level of humility that he wielded. In the same humility, could be sometimes very, very, very strong passions and positions that if you gave him an opportunity, he could floor you. So that is why I'm saying that the mix of this man is very, very interesting. humble man, a lot of passion, and if you give him the opportunity, he could use every power in him to discipline you. That is a very, very interesting dimension of Flight Lieutenant Judge John Rawlings. One of the things I want to say briefly, and I resume my seat, is that when we have these issues of desalting of gutters, I'm sure if you want to write the record of this great country of us, he will be the first head of state who took off his military top and some green singlet, entered into the Nima gutters. I don't know how many of you remember that. That was a symbol of extreme servanthood for a head of state. Somebody is looking at me as if you don't know the stench in the Nima gutters. It's not easy. But the head of state, very strong in his passion that we should desilt our gutters and ensure environmental decency and hygiene, descended into the Nima gutter with a shovel. He was seriously desilting. It is a very interesting matter that should be part of the record of this nation. What about this cocoa expeditions? It was a case that a lot of cocoa, which should earn us foreign exchange, were stuck in the bush. And these are what I'll call menial jobs that you find laborers carrying cocoa. And for some of us, the shock was that the head of state himself took on menial jobs and was carrying cocoa for the effect that we shouldn't permit the little resources that we have to waste away in the bush. I will not be able to say all that this man represented, but one of the things I want to say is that we should emulate his good examples. I will never say he was perfect. And as a matter of fact, insofar as you are in this cage called flesh, you can never be perfect. And in trying to do a serious analysis of him, we should look at his very positive sides, which were very many. I've recounted situations in which he was telling me that chief is always fond of calling people chief. Would you be able to assist so that we help this man who is sick? I found it very, very touching. I was even concerned about people who were sick, and if you could put resources together to help them with health issues. May his soul rest in peace as we commemorate his birthday. Some people never became 70 years old. But the record that he was 70 years old. That is what the Bible says, a good person could have, and the rest of it will be a bonus. I'm praying that a whole set like educational foundation should be set up for him. And then everything about him, people can go to that facility and read. And that is going to enrich generations yet unborn. We should never lose the personality and the colossus called Flight Lieutenant General Rawlings ever. We should document everything concerning him, do a serious monument that some of the young men who never heard about June 4th and the rest of them will go and read and then improve upon what we call development of the human personality. So I thank my good brother for me coming out with this birthday anniversary speech. And I always crave your indulgence that when we are doing such important matters, sorry? Well, I happen to be a lawyer for the great man, and I was very, very proud. I served him, although he didn't come to court, but he was always commanding me to go. So, my brother and friend, I thank you for doing honors to this great personality of us. And I'm grateful to you, Right Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity.
Yes, let me come to everybody. Dr. Teria, where is your constituency? Bia East, yes. Is it West?
West.
Very well. We are West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. It is gratifying that on this special day in the life of His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, former President of the Republic, we will celebrate him and reflect on. It is amazing to recognize that indeed he is a person of many shades and that we cannot easily write him off nor write about him completely. Many things that can be said have been documented in certain publications in recent times. But it is interesting to know that he wanted to be a priest and that it was some significant matter of concern to him. And although he didn't quite get there, the ethos of the priesthood actually guided him in some of his decisions and attempts at life. As an individual, I'm careful not to say I know him completely, but it is interesting to also understand that as serious as he was, being a military officer and also the President of the Republic, he was quite a very humorous person. And that if you got nearer to him, that man would joke and laugh and make life very simple. And I'm sure many of us watched a few years ago his celebration of his spouse over her 70th birthday, in which this old soldier, stout and very serious, breaks down into dancing and laughing and talking about his encounter with his wife at the market and all of that. So he gives us an opportunity to see him as a complete person, and that some of the things that he did really yielded to what we call a total human experience as we observed him and as we shared him. But I'm especially interested about his political space in terms of the reference to his being the first to actually take off the military uniform and actually coming out, freedom president, taking the constitution that was drafted in his time and really working with it. It is interesting as he emerges from that military lifestyle to the civilian life and how that process actually showed him as a person. This is a charismatic person who will get down in the trenches and really do everything to show that, yes, he is on top of his business. Any sociologist may describe him as a charismatic leader. But in the process of routinizing his charisma to really become a legal, rational thinker, to actually take on the spirit of bureaucracy and following the norms and the rules that were established through the 1992 Constitution, he showed humility, resilience, and a person who is willing to stand in the middle of tension to transform a society that needed that kind of help. I stand here in this parliament and I look at the ages of several of the people born in 1980, 82, 85, even as far as 90. Well and good, they qualify to be members of parliament. But when you look at our recent history relating to President Rawlings and some of the happenings, I think that many have not reflected fully about his contribution in that political sphere. And so as a result, it is easy to dismiss the significant role he played and his colossal contribution to this country. Let me mention the University of Education. It was basically a little bit of scattered institutions down there in Winneba, Mampong, and Kumasi. And under his leadership, these institutions were brought together and we had a University of Education. Today, we now have even emerging from the University of Education as a result of the strong foundation that he laid. He gave his own personal contribution that he received as an award to start the University of Development Studies. Today, that university is broken into 3. So, if we lay these foundations, if we leave behind these significant accomplishments, someday somebody will also pick it up. It is at the youth level that we want to see President Rawlings as well. He was very fond of the youth, and the youth development centers we have in our country were all developed or transformed during his life. And in his memory, I think that, as aptly said by Honorable Atachian, we should be working towards really naming some significant things after him for his contribution to this country. In the field of railways, as many of us at the time saw, he took off his shirt and he was there in the trenches with the workers, really actually putting the rail together and making sure that food is transported, and the famous cocoa, making sure that they are carted from the villages. Indeed, he came as a president, and with a military background and all those things that can probably be minuses in some of the things, he fully exhibited a life of resilience, a life of service, and he embodies that not only at the time, but throughout history because of his impact in our society. The man Jerry Rawlings continues to live on.
Dr. Toria.
Yes, sir.
Please.
I'm winding up.
Yes.
So, there are so many attributes that we are excited about him introducing in this society. And we wish him, his family, and everyone connected with him well. And his contribution, for those of us who saw him as a student, as a worker, as a statesman, was an inspiration for a transformed country, which he introduced to the extent that the level of inclusivity that we have today and that others are not left behind could be realized. Jerry John Rawlings, the man, lives on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Wayumi, I want you to be very brief.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief. And to add my voice to this statement ably made by my colleague, Honorable MP for Buem, on the occasion of the birthday of the former president, may his soul rest in peace, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. And Mr. Speaker, the former president's contribution to the development of sports in this country, the least, Mr. Speaker, as the Honorable Taicha indicated, I think we will have to look for a encyclopedia to probably put all in there for generation after generation to be able to appreciate his doorways. Sessa Games, which is one of the key contributors to a formidable formation of sports, establishment of various sports in this country, started somewhere in 1987. And if I may quote, under his leadership at the time, the PNDC chairman then ensured that he used sports to bring the security services together, and also to ensure that we develop talent through the security services. An example being the celebrated former boxer Azuma Nelson. And if I may quote, we have a write-up on these Sessa Games that since its establishment, with the permission, I quote a portion of this write-up, that since its establishment in 1987, namely the Ghana Armed Forces, Ghana Police Service, Ghana Prison Service, Ghana National Fire Service, Ghana Immigration Service, and Customs, Excise and Foreign Service began these Sessa Games and lifted the number to 6 eventually. And that has actually contributed immeasurably towards sport development in the country. And indeed, the games held over the years have brought security services together and aired talents in potential sportsmen and women and produced the bulk of athletes for the national teams. And so, Mr. Speaker, we can't talk about, we can't complete or finish ever about who laid the foundation for sport development in this country. I mean, his contribution is so mega and big, and I'm sure we can't finish talking about them or writing about them. And today, we still are enjoying the fruits of some of the trees that he planted then. The cohesion in our security services, the cohesion of the country at large, and all that through sports development, and we owe him so much gratitude for the work and then the vision at the time that he actually gave birth to. Mr. Speaker, with this little contribution to what has been said so far, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings will continue to remain on our minds, and we will continue to always talk about him, and then try to emulate his good examples, things that he stood for, his virtues, and obviously what we are enjoying today, which is the Fourth Republic. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and God bless us all. May his soul rest in peace.
Very well. Am I hearing something from the leadership? Leadership, are you doing any contribution?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to add my voice to the statement and to thank members who have said good things about our former president. Mr. Speaker, some of us were very young before he came on the scene, and I was about 15 years old in 1979, so I'm not a small boy. You were not born then. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to wish the family well, that even though we have all lost the former president, they have lost him most. And that we pray that God take care of them and give them heart to be able to contain the loss. And also want to agree with Honorable Atachian for the proposal for the establishment of an institute or a facility that all the literatures about him can be found there, so that our generation yet unborn can't just walk there and a lot about him, because that is very important to guide the future leaders of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Speaker, on this auspicious and important day, it will be remiss on my part if I don't speak in solidarity of the wonderful attributes that our colleagues have spoken to. And so I join you, nation. However, growing up as a young student leader, I've always held the former president in fear. And I've always respected him from a distance. There was an occasion we had to negotiate and have a meeting as a student leader. That was when I got closer to the former president. It's a very important day, and I want to be very careful with the choice of words. I've heard my colleagues talk about monuments, and not to take anything away from what the Honorable Atachian has suggested, I'm full in support. But in my personal view, the best memory will not be reflected in monuments. The best memory of the former president will be reflected in our approach as a country to distill what he stood for, and for it to be properly taught in our schools, and for the youth of our country to come embrace these things, these ideals and principles he stood for. Monuments are not the best, will not be the best legacies. And that is my strong view. I also think that the best memory and the best example should be set by the NDC party. The best in terms of our memory of our former president Jerry John Rawlings, that example should be set by the NDC as a party. And they should set the tone for others to follow. Today, from where I sit, and forgive me, from where I sit, I don't see that from on your part. The greatest respect. I don't see that on your part. For instance, and I don't want to make any comparisons, there are political parties who, up to date, their founders are still remembered. And when you mention the tradition, they mention these forefathers and the torch blazers. I don't see that. And I want to urge my colleagues in the NDC, they have to help the nation to celebrate the former president. What you are doing is not enough. This speech, this statement is good, and I commend you. But I'm saying that you should go beyond that. And you as NDC must set the example for all of us to follow. And it's a very important day, a very auspicious day. I don't want to... What debate?
What is it?
I rose because I thought my colleague on the other side seemed to be dragging the discussion into a debatable area or arena, and I don't think it's good for us. So we actually eulogizing and having a kind of statement that will give everybody a good memory of the departed. I think we should go along that path. What do you mean by NDC setting examples?
Very well. Have you finished?
I'll just conclude, and my colleagues should take this in good stride. I'm saying, and I repeat it, that the NDC should show better example in terms of the celebration of former President Rawlings. That is my view, and I hold that view strongly. And Speaker, so in speaking in solidarity and in support of my colleague's statement, I think that he is a wonderful personality in this country that had, and it would be remiss on our part if we don't celebrate him. But as I said, that celebration and recognition should not reflect in monument. We should find a way to distill the things he stood for the youth to buy into the things he stood for it to become a lesson for generations yet to come. So these are my views, and I commend the maker of the statement. I'm sure we'll have some other time to engage further on this matter. Speaker, I thank you for the space. You still remember?
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Let's hear
the
you.
Chief Whip.
Even though reluctantly. Let's hear you reluctantly.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm just saying that. But I am concluding. Well, Mr. Speaker, I think I have my own independent views, and when I heard the matter on the floor, I hurriedly got in, and you're giving me this treasure space. Mr. Speaker, leadership is a lonely journey, and sometimes your dreams and ambitions are not what you see when you get on the seat. I hold the view that no matter what, Jerry John Rawlings contributed his quota to the country's development, no doubt at all. Suffice to state that for every government or in leadership, errors are bound to be made. So whereas we celebrate his good deeds.
Yeah, leader, hold on. Honorable members, if you look at the time, it's 2 o'clock. So let me indulge you to permit me to extend sitting beyond the normal hours of 2. So we are moving on. Yes.
So, Mr. Speaker, whilst we celebrate his good deeds, I believe that those who are holding his step for posterity will also take steps to let the real deeds of the man manifest, and also find space to create
a posthumous reconciliation. Mr. Speaker, when you follow the teachings of men of higher orders, they preach and treasure forgiveness. And even when we intend well, even when we mean well, there are times that we err. And this is something that those of us in the political leadership must recognize. We often forget. We often forget. Having said that, I must say, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, that this democracy of today has survived because what people thought of him as an extremist, after all, was not the case. I have had a personal encounter with some people who said they were surprised when we were launching ourselves into this republic, that after all, the man Jerry Rawlings was a moderate, because there were rather very strange proposals that he would not agree to, and rather fought extremists in his backyard. So if today we have this democracy, I think it is only fair that we celebrate him and acknowledge him. And you see, Mr. Speaker, nature has a funny way and an indirect way of rewarding our industry. His daughter, whom he so much loved, has benefited from the fruits of this democracy. So I just want to make the point that our colleague from Kole Clotty is not here by accident. You are not here by accident. The effort made has created a space for you in this chamber. And it means that we should all make effort to sustain this democracy. That is why in this chamber, Mr. Speaker, in all our contributions, in all the things we do, we should never allow extremism and that the extremities of our conduct to overtake the need to hold firm this democracy. It is important, and I want to re-echo at the risk of being repetitive. Mr. Speaker, having said this, I thank you for the space and also commend highly my respected colleague, Kofi Idi Adams. No, he has Idi in his name. Kofi Idi Adams, my own good friend, for doing what he has done. Hansard will forever remember your efforts. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Leader, we have other statements, are we?
Speaker, we should be going on to page 7, today's order paper, take item 13. Item 13, page 7.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move that this Honorable House adopt the report of the Finance Committee on the request for waiver of import duty, import VAT, Get Fund levy, NHIL, EXIM levy, Special Import levy, COVID-19 levy, ECOWAS and AU levies amounting to the Ghana cedi equivalent of 1,870,704 United States dollars, comprising the 352,499 United States dollars and 1,500,000 $518,205 United States on material equipment to be imported for the 3-island mini-grid electrification construction in the Adan East District of the Greater Accra region, and upgrade of distribution networks in the Upper East and Upper West region, respectively under the Swiss Confederation State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, funded Ghana Electricity Sector Support Project under the Ghana Energy Development and Access Project. Mr. Speaker, your committee met with officials of the Ministry of Finance, and the breakdown for the request is indicated under paragraph 3.1. The committee's observations under paragraph 4. The committee therefore concludes, Mr. Speaker, that this Honourable House approves the request for the waiver so that the project would achieve the stated objective. Mr. Please submitted. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes, Honourable Ranking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to second the motion, and in doing so, I wish to say that it's a straightforward facility. Mr. Speaker, the amount in question has to do with a grant that was made known to us by the committee. And Mr. Speaker, it is for the purposes of ensuring that the Upper East region and Upper West region in particular get upgrade of distribution network, and also 3 islands in the Adan East area also get access to the upgrade of rural electrification. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I wish to urge the members of Parliament that this is pretty straightforward and we should all support it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, the motion has been moved and it has been seconded. It is for the consideration of the House. I'm inclined to say yes. If there's nobody desirous to contribute, then I'll put the question. And the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Please let me hear you well. As many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against the motion, say no. Yes, it's obvious. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Yes, Honourable Deputy Minister, you may take the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution captured as item 14 on pages 8, 9 and 10 of today's order paper be adopted now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Yes. Honourable Kwatin, may you second the resolution? Honourable Kwatin, Honourable Atu Fosun, may you second the resolution?
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Very well. Honourable members, the question, as many as in favor of the resolution, say aye. Please, I want to hear the response. As many as are in favor of the resolution, say aye. Those against, say no. Yes, so that everybody can see that indeed the House has taken the resolution. Honourable members, the ayes have it, and the resolution is hereby adopted.
Speaker, with your leave, we'll have to go on to addendum paper, order paper addendum, and take item 1. Yes.
Honourable members, let me invite you to the addendum paper. Addendum paper, I hope we are all having a copy of addendum paper. Item 1, motion. Item 1, motion. I think this particular motion was moved some time back, is it 26th May, the motion was moved and the motion was seconded. It was debated, even though we didn't conclude the debate. So we are yet to conclude the debate. So,
Speaker, just to draw your attention to the fact that the motion was moved, seconded by myself. We debated and concluded it, but we did not put the question. So probably you put the question and then we'll finish with it. The only thing left is to put the question.
Very well. If you so wish. Is that the very well. So let him put the question.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, I need to corroborate this point. That is the case.
It doesn't matter. The records are there.
Mr. Speaker, just to...
But the addendum paper is saying debate is yet to be concluded.
Yes, so Mr. Speaker, what we're saying, what he said, I am corroborating. So, Mr. Speaker, the facts as put out by my respected colleague, Kesio Atufosi, is accurate.
Very well. In fact, I was presiding that day, and I think that was the position. So let him put...
Mr. Speaker, debate was not concluded by the record we have here. So I want to contribute, Mr. Speaker.
You want to contribute?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I arise to reluctantly support the motion, reluctantly because this request is about 75 million euro for COVID-19 health response project. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, the Minister of Finance was in this chamber to present a statement, and according to that statement, 19.3 million Ghana cedis was realized as revenue to fight COVID-19. 19.3 billion, and was realized from loans from the contingency fund and other sources for COVID.
Yes.
Yes, 19.3 billion was realized.
2010, it's realized.
Well, you are lawyers.
No,
you are lawyers, so please.
Yeah,
was made available from different sources. Let me change it for you. Was made available from different sources to fight COVID. And 12 billion was actually spent on COVID-related activities. The balance was 7.3 billion, which according to them were spent on other things. Mr. Speaker, you have used COVID as a conduit to go and overcharge to go and borrow money and spend that on different things. One of them is to the tune of spending 853 million Ghana cedis for Development Bank. For Development Bank. Today, you are here to go and borrow 75 million euro for COVID again. Mr. Speaker, why are we doing this into ourselves? Fortunately, I didn't get COVID. All my tests are negative. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that if this money is given or approved by this House, they will use it for COVID-related activities, not any other thing. Because experience shows that 7.3 billion was not used on COVID activities. That is what the Speaker, Minister presented yesterday. So my hope is that this 75 million euro will be used for COVID-related activities. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the move of the motion, I'm grateful for the opportunity to conclude on the matters raised. Mr. Speaker, it is just to point out that this is a facility the terms of which are very good. And therefore, I'm happy we are approving it. It's important that we do not mix this good facility up with misunderstandings we may have about what the minister presented yesterday. Mr. Speaker, the 19.3 billion that the minister indicated had been realized for COVID expenditures were supposed to do two things. And I'm able to speak this way, Mr. Speaker, because I was then a deputy minister in the ministry. The money was supposed to do two things. First, it was supposed to fill a gap in our revenue arising out of the COVID pandemic. That is COVID related. And then it was second. But when you put misinformation, it's important. Students are listening to us. It's important that we set the record straight so they can learn. What I'm saying is that we also had a responsibility to deal with expenditures that had been unplanned but had arisen as a result of the pandemic. The vaccine that had to be provided, the relief that had to be provided. So when you have an envelope for COVID money, you use a part of that, Honorable Rankin, it will be helpful if you allow me to finish, then you can come in. But then you don't come with a point of order. We all kept quiet. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is that the money that was used to support the, Mr. Speaker, the money that was used to support the budget, because a gap in the revenue envelope had arisen on account of COVID and the country's inability to mobilize revenue because the economy had been shut down, there was a lockdown, imports were not coming, must not be interpreted. We must never tell students and the public that that was not COVID related. We can, I always say we can do all the politics, but it's important that we send the right communication. So it is just to conclude that the 7.3 was used to finance revenue gaps arising out of the COVID pandemic. It was a policy decision. It was brought here. In fact, we brought it here at the time. Parliament approved it, and we should stop making the case that this was some bad expenditures for which the public must not be made to finance. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we cannot continue to use the name of COVID to borrow to no end. Mr. Speaker, it is becoming an affront that any time government wants money, the refrain is that this is for COVID. In that document, there are things such as buying MRI equipment for the Bogatanga Regional Hospital, when we approved a loan of $20 million here for the same facility in Boga Regional Hospital, it's not been installed. Mr. Speaker, if we ask you to account for expenditures, there is no expenditure called revenue shortfall. There is no expenditure like that. Revenue shortfall does not qualify for an expenditure. So if you ask you to come and account for COVID monies that you have spent, and you come and say 7.3 billion was for revenue shortfall, what animal expenditure is called revenue shortfall? So if you have revenue shortfall and you use part of the COVID money, you must be telling us that I use part of the COVID money to pay for wages. I use part of the COVID money to pay for private jet. That is what you should be telling us. But not to say it is for revenue shortfall. That is not expenditure. It is not expenditure. Which expenditure line is called revenue shortfall? There's nothing like that.
So if you use part of our COVID money, and we want you to tell us what you use our COVID money for, you will tell us the specific expenditures.
Honorable Adongo, hold on.
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, I rise to seek your guidance. The records of this House will reflect that the Deputy Minority Leader took a special leave from you, and by virtue of the position he occupies, you granted that leave. Having been informed and knowing the fact that debate had been concluded on the matter. Now, Mr. Speaker, my colleague had the opportunity to get your leave, and as per our own practice, the chair of the committee who presented the report had to conclude. I was going to waive my right to respond by way of also making some closing remarks. But then you gave the treasured position opportunity to my colleague Adongo, just because, Mr. Speaker, sometimes you want to encourage us to, discuss issues. But with the greatest respect to you, my respected colleague, language use is very critical. You can say all that you want to say, but conduct is critical. If we are not guided by the use of certain language, and we know our rules are clear. Look, honorable, my respected colleague, if for nothing at all, I'm your senior in this chamber. If for nothing at all, no, you are not supposed to act that way. If you disagree, rise and catch the eye of Mr. Speaker. If for nothing at all, I'm your senior. And I'm to guide you and correct you and move you into the path of righteousness. Mr. Speaker, you cannot be here in the chamber, Parliament of Ghana, and use certain words. You put your own phraseology together, which phraseology is not acceptable on this floor. This is different from a campaign platform. And that is what I want to say. That don't abuse this opportunity given you by Mr. Speaker. Because speakers don't often give such opportunities, especially when debate has closed. So if Mr. Speaker has respected you and has given you that opportunity right at the back bench, be careful of your choice of words. Else one day, when you need such a favor, Mr. Speaker will deny you. Mr. Speaker, on that note, Mr. Speaker, it is my conclusion that he has abused that privilege, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, please, deny him of oxygen and put a question.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure you are going to accept the request from my colleague leader, because that's a dangerous road to deny somebody oxygen. Do you want me to suffocate and die? So I just want to alert you that don't allow that request to go through. Thank you.
Honorable Adongo, you may conclude, but
thank you very much.
Hold
Mr.
on,
Speaker.
mind the diction of words. The kind of words you choose. So you may conclude.
Thank you very much. I never knew that spending money on a private jet is offensive to this House. And so if today it is offensive, it is an offensive to say that COVID money could have been used on private jet, I don't see how that is offensive.
Yes, Honorable Senior Obiamor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, as the Deputy Majority Leader said, this is a House of Records. And indeed, some of us started from the back and moved forward. Some of us have sat on this side of the House before, and we are now here. There's a lot that we can learn from each other. There's a lot that we can imbibe so that we become better than how we started. I was expecting Honorable Member to just apologize for the words he used, for us to move on. This posture of whatever you say, I also have my way, doesn't work. And with all due respect, you don't just throw words and statements in this house that you don't use COVID money to hire private jets and you say that it's a revenue shortfall. You can't make such statements and then you say, what animal is that? Please, Mr. Speaker, I expect him to retract and apologize for using those words. If he's not sure of what he's saying, he should not speculate. You don't speculate here. If he's not sure that COVID money has been used to hire private jets, he shouldn't make those statements. And then take it as normal business and then say that I didn't know that if I speculate, I'm wrong. If you speculate and you don't have the facts, you are wrong. And that's exactly what you've done. And I wish you could accept in good faith for us to move on. And this business of making any statement, sometimes playing to the gallery and sometimes getting the media to follow up for you to make more statements, it doesn't work. With all due respect, let the people know that when we come to this house, indeed we make very serious statements and we can back these statements. We thought we had concluded this matter. And now all of a sudden we want to open COVID debate by making such statements. It doesn't work, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect.
Mr. Speaker, my choice of words were very clear. I said there is no expenditure called revenue shortfall. So if the revenue shortfall, the money you claim to have used for revenue shortfall, were used for specific expenditures, say so. And I'm giving examples of expenditures that could have been incurred with that revenue shortfall money. And I could have used any item at all that you are allergic to the example I gave as private jet. Doesn't mean that I said you use the money on private jet. That is not the point I made. So you cannot put words in my mouth. All I'm saying is that if there is a revenue shortfall and you use part of the COVID money to fill that revenue shortfall, it went to pay for specific expenditures. And you should be telling us those specific expenditures and not use the word revenue shortfall as though there's an expenditure called revenue shortfall. There's none like that.
So
in conclusion, this COVID is become an animal that is depleting the resources that is needed for other things. And we cannot be continuously approving loans to no end for COVID. And in my view, this transaction should not be approved in this house. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Abraham, I was going to... yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is true that there's no expenditure line item called revenue shortfalls. But yesterday, we indicated clearly that because we came to Parliament to revise the revenue numbers down by close to 11 billion, and then we had to incur an additional 13 billion, which was not budgeted for. when we got some inflows for COVID-related items, we used some of the money to fund the budget. We all know the items in the budget: free SHS, NAPCO, planting for food and jobs, paying of salaries. So all these monies were used to support in that regard. So, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that we do not use the monies for any other thing, but to help close the gap that was created as a result of the revision of our revenue numbers. And, Mr. Speaker, we are not taking advantage of COVID, to do anything bad. When you look at this loan before us today, we are saying that this money is going to be used to expand diagnostic capacity from 2 to 19 labs. And if my brother here feels that we don't want to take advantage of the COVID to improve on our health systems, he should tell the whole world. It also says that we are going to use some to purchase reagents and to further expand the testing capacity in the preparation for possible repeat surges and spike waves. He should tell the whole Ghana that he doesn't want this to happen. Again, we are also saying that recently people are complaining that there's lack of beds in the ICU. This part of this money is going to be used to treat and to increase the 21 treatment centers and equip them with ICU or intensive care units, bed capacity from 44 to 129 in 10 regions. And I'm very sure his region will also benefit. So if you tell Ghanaians that you don't want us to improve on our health systems by using some of these relatively cheaper funds, then I don't know why he's here representing his constituents, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, we are going to make sure that we improve the outcomes of COVID-19. And that is why we are asking that we all support, us to pass this loan and get this concessional funding to help us improve on our health systems. We are not doing politics here. It's about improving the lives and improving our health systems here. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll urge both sides to support and have this loan approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in Why?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who fought the case of Justice Abdullahi versus Attorney General, is here in the House. And Mr. Speaker, by the decision in that case, for a decision such as this to be taken by the House, we need majority of members of Parliament based on Article 104. This is a crucial financial decision about to be taken, and you are going to put a question for a decision to be taken, and we are less than 50 of the members of the House. Mr. Speaker, I think when a procedure is set down for a right to be exercised, it is that procedure that will have to be followed in exercising the right. The procedure is enshrined in our Constitution, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, above and beyond which no further law exists. The Supreme Court has given interpretation to it. Our standing order is very clear. Mr. Speaker, I submit that we do not have the numbers to take decision that you are about to put the question. Mr. Speaker, I so submit.
Yes, Honourable Chairman for Constitutional and Legal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have actually heard my brother on the other side. Some of these issues had come up earlier, and I believe leadership had actually met and come to an agreement that if we should go on that tangent, we may not be able to do anything in this house. I've actually spoken to my brother Now, the process that we may have to go through now is that he may have to raise an issue, we may have to toll the bell, we may have to wait for some minutes, we may have to find out whether we have the numbers to take their decision and whatnot. And the question is whether we may be able to do this always. Because for instance, I've actually discussed with my brother and had invited the Attorney General because we have a clause, and in fact he had actually proposed an amendment in a bill, and this had been on other paper for more than 2 months. And when we had actually invited the Attorney General and these surprises come up, I would want to plead with him that sometimes we may have to gloss over these things in order that we can do good business on the floor of the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I urge my brother to actually give this a consideration and allow us to do business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier on I had indicated to my colleague, the Honorable Kwati, that he has a choice to choose between what they want, or members will certainly raise the issue of quorum. The Speaker, he did not heed to my advice. Today, colleague has raised the issue of quorum. It is indeed a constitutional matter. The Speaker, it is indeed a constitutional matter. So, Mr. Speaker, the reality is, since he's raised the issue of quorum, we have no choice than to implement it. And obviously, Mr. Speaker, I cannot sit here and create impression that we have quorum. The truth is we do not have it. So probably we'll have to come tomorrow and take decision on the matter. But what is important is for us to understand that the debate in itself has been concluded. So tomorrow when we meet, we can put the question and accept it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But if you say wrong things, we'll correct it.
Thank you.
This loan, this COVID, everybody can get it. NDC too can.
And I think also here, let me hear you.
Mr. Speaker, Nana Kasa Omuyedi, and I think also did you hear the Speaker? They're confusing the issues. They always talk about confusion and conflation. You should be very careful about these matters. You keep on praying in aid a decision by the Supreme Court and the Lord. The Supreme Court hasn't pronounced on these matters of when we should call quorum. Supreme Court just gave the numbers. They didn't indicate that at a particular point in time when serious business is going on in the House and both of you are agreed on. Oh, they won't listen to what I'm saying. Would you shut up and listen to me? Keep quiet and listen to me. The attorney, Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General is here. He has come to do a matter of considerable significance to the whole country. It's only a tiny little bit. We pleaded with him, Mr. Speaker, to suspend all that he had to do today to come so we could complete the item, which has been pending because of our colleague, what's his name? Honorable Ahiafo, the ranking member for Constitutional, Legal, and Parliamentary Affairs. That's him there. The Attorney General has come because of him. I think it is videos of him, it's bad coming from him. One is because of him, the Attorney General has come. Sit down, let me complete what I'm saying. Sit down. One Attorney General is here because of him, and he would not employ his people. It is your responsibility to make sure that the colleagues understand the point we are making. Let us. I haven't finished. You are all on your feet. Which one is that?
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to listen to the Ababisa man, so let's see whatever.
Mr. Speaker,
the director wants to make a point.
honorable member just entered the chamber. You just entered the chamber. And then, please, can you sit down? Because the floor has been given to me, so sit down. Sit down, sit down. Mr. Speaker, he just entered the chamber and decides to go and gag a member who has been elected by the people of Akachi South to speak for them. He cannot gag him for, say, he should not go and say what he did. He is a member of parliament. He has a right to speak on any issue here on this floor. So please, don't say that what he shouldn't have said that. No. He's speaking for the people that elected him to this chamber.
Mr. Speaker, you see why I always implore them to listen to me before they talk. He got it completely wrong. It doesn't sit in my mouth to gag my colleague there. I could not for the life of me have said that he cannot talk. I said that you shouldn't have said that because the Attorney General is here in the House because of a matter which has come about because of him. And in videos won't here, and he attempted it. So, if it is the videos that you are worried about, it's a matter of just changing it to another word, isn't it? That it is wrong of you. Is that also bad? It's wrong of you to have suggested that we should, to call for a quorum. Because the man is here because of you. So, Mr. Speaker, my prayer is that let's deal with this small matter of the Attorney General issue while he is here, so that we don't get him to go and come back. Sorry? No, for the reason that he is here. The emphasis is on why he is here. Mr. Speaker, now,
Honorable members, please.
Okay, so the point I was making was that, even if the quorum is called, we have some time before, obviously, we can make a decision on that.
Well, we can ring the bell.
Yeah, while we do that, let's get on with it and then deal with this Attorney General matter.
So,
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I think it would be unfair to make it appear as though the Attorney General is here to undermine or suspend the Constitution. So the continuous mentioning of the Attorney General's presence being the reason to overlook such an important ruling is, I think, unfair, since he can't speak for himself as a non-member of the House. Thank you.
Respectfully, the Attorney General, you may have the floor.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I think the point must be made that the Supreme Court decision in Justice Abdullahi against the Attorney General did not derogate from or undermine the principle that Parliament is a master of its own rules and procedures. Mr. Speaker, indeed, this submission I make, even forms the foundation of submissions that I have prepared and filed in the Supreme Court in another case filed by my good friends on the other side, Honorable Haruna Idusu and two others versus the Attorney General. Because the point I make is that, indeed, the facts in respect of the Justice Abdullahi matter were quite clear. The parties were agreed on the facts. There was no dispute at all as to the irregularity of the procedure adopted by the House. It's on that basis that the Supreme Court proceeded to render the decision that it did. Indeed, in consonance with the principle that Parliament is the master of its own procedure, if this Honourable House agreed on a procedure to adopt this afternoon, as has been attested to by my chairman, the chairman of the Constitutional Committee, that indeed there has been a consensus to proceed. My respectful submission is that any decision by the House in terms of its own procedure definitely will be binding on the House and will bind on the whole nation at all. And that will be in keeping with the principle that Parliament is the master of its own rules and procedure. The Speaker, on that basis, I respectfully submit that if the House desires to consider the Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill, in respect of which I'm here, I believe that it will not be out of tune with the decision of the Supreme Court in Jasabdilai v. Attenjura. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Gaga.
I think the matter raised by my brother, Honorable Ahiafo, was very specific. And that matter bordered on quorum. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court dealt extensively with the issue of quorum in the Justice Abdullahi matter. It's as simple as that. And so the matter that should be considered and dealt with by Mr. Speaker at this moment is to make a determination whether at this instant moment we have quorum to take a decision or not. It's as simple as that, Mr. Speaker.
We have a quorum.
Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. Please, once the issue of the constitutionality of the numbers we find in the chamber has been raised, I am inclined
No, fact. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, with respect. Mr. Speaker, with respect. Mr. Speaker, with respect. There's a procedure on matters of quorum. However, this side of the House is in charge of government business. It is our position that the time being 3 o'clock, normally we're supposed to sit up to 1. Up to 2 o'clock. Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge the fact that members have put in much industry for today's business. And we want to hold back government business for today and come back tomorrow. But considering the time, Mr. Speaker, I cannot move a motion for adjournment except to pray. Now, Mr. Speaker, since there is no business from this side, and we don't intend to proceed with any more business, you proceed to adjourn the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
very well. Yes, let him hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is no motion to second, but I agree with him. Only that saying that there is no business from their side is a bit doubtful. But I agree that we adjourn to tomorrow. So we are in your hands, Mr. Speaker. We are in your hands.
Speaker, I said, please, Mr. Speaker, the majority is in charge of government business. And we are saying that at this point, we appreciate your industry for the day. The members are tired. Members have cooperated so far. We don't want members to come tomorrow so tired. So government business for the time being will be placed on ice to enable us go and do some other work and come back tomorrow with fresh minds. So, Mr. Speaker, On the basis of that, we are in your hands. If my colleagues support it, so be it. You put out, you adjourn the house, but you shouldn't put words in my mouth. Yes, I've not said there's no government business. We recognize that you, the minority, you are tired.
Well, honorable members, whichever angle you look at, we were going to close. So, honorable members, we were going to close. Honorable members, we are moving to adjourn the house to tomorrow. So we don't have quorum. We are adjourning the house. So, honorable members, the house is adjourned to tomorrow 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The house stands adjourned.